Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL. This is not the first time you're going to hear me do an intro because there's another one coming. However, James, we are the masters of recording a podcast just before breaking news. We always do it, whether it's fixtures dropping or injuries being announced, or in this case, managers being sacked. I mean, look, they got battered yesterday at West Ham. Under the cosh for the entire game, were humiliated. No surprise that Erik TEN Hag has now lost his job. And I say that tongue in cheek. Listen to the whole podcast to know what we really thought of the game. Are you surprised?
The timing feels a bit of a surprise, yeah, because I feel like there was an inevitability a couple of weeks ago that this would have happened, and it feels like it was calming to a stage where you kept looking at these good fixtures on the horizon. You thought, it might stick with him now, but I do think ultimately this was always going to be the conclusion for Manchester United, was that they'd part ways. I think it was too far gone. It was just never going to. We'd just seen too many occasions where they'd have like one step forward and it was two steps back. So I am surprised at the timing, but I'm not surprised at the decision. I think this had an inevitable conclusion, actually.
Yeah, I guess with the way that the club is run, you'd hope they had some sort of plan in place for who they wanted to take over. Ruud van Nistelrooy is obviously there in the backroom staff and seems a very straightforward temporary. I don't know this for certain that that's going to happen, but you'd suspect that he will take over the team now.
Yeah, no, that's David Ornstein said that Ruud van Nistelrooy asked to take charge on an interim basis. That's confirmed.
Yeah, I feel a bit for Ten Hag. It does feel like that there's Manchester United is more than just coaching a football team. There's so much more that goes on with a club of that size. I do think they have been starting to turn it around and get good characters in the dressing room and so on. So I feel a bit for him, if I'm honest with you. But yeah.
In fact, United have put the message out now as well, literally while we're recording this. So Manchester United now confirmed officially the news.
Yeah, club statement and what have you's gone out. So
yeah,
let's see where they go from here. There's plenty of good managers out in the market, so we'll see who they'll go for.
I suspect we'll be talking Manchester United more Thursday now.
Yeah, exactly that. Gareth, is Gareth's phone ringing?
There's been Xavi rumours, hasn't there?
I'd like to see him get someone who will spice it up a little bit. You know, even Zidane maybe, or something along those lines.
Van Nistelrooy will get given a chance here, I think. And there's some, as I said, there's some good fixtures. 3 of the next 4 are at home. They'll be right up for Chelsea now. I'm already, despite what you're about to hear on the podcast, I'm already thinking, oh crap, I don't want to captain Cole Palmer now this weekend.
Yeah, I can understand that. Having said that, the players are still the players. Let's see. But you do get new manager bounces, a real thing. It does happen. So.
Yep.
Yes, it's happened. Erik ten Hag has lost his job. It did happen right at the end of us recording the show, which you're about to listen to. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. It gives me a chance to say, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, get notified whenever new stuff goes live, which I always do right at the end of an hour and a half or 2 hours. You get to get that message now. It really helps support the show. Thanks so much for your support, and I hope you enjoy it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around fantasy, Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
Happy Monday, James. Happy Monday.
No shit.
At some point, I need to stage an intervention or something to stop you going to away games.
Don't worry, the next one I'm going to is Manchester City.
I mean, if would you rather if they said to you, don't if you don't come to, if you knew that if you didn't go to the game you would win, would you not go to the game?
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, if you ask me, oh, would you want the experience and keep losing, or you don't go and you win? Yeah, I'll take winning. Thanks, mate.
I'm sure there's somebody that can do the statistical analysis on whether James is a Jonah for Tottenham with away games, because you seem to see yourselves lose more than you seem to see yourselves win.
Well, I'll do some analysis on Tottenham's away performances on Tottenham on Patreon on Wednesday. So let's
We're only
not
talking
do that
about
now.
it. Only talking about it because you said you had a shit weekend. I just asked you how you doing. You're doing all right, mate. You had a good captaincy.
Okay weekend, just shit yesterday. Can you first and foremost, though, Suj, can you confirm for all the listeners and viewers that you did not miss
No,
FPL
I didn't
deadline.
miss the deadline. I was sitting on my sofa before watching City Southampton, just twiddling around as you do, and I was like, do you know what? I don't often post my team just after deadline like you do it religiously. I do it once in every 4 or 5 weeks. I thought, let me just post my team while I'm killing 5 minutes before the game kicks off. So I didn't miss the deadline. No, I just posted my team a day late in a 5-minute window where I had fuck all to do. So
With a screen grab of next week's fixtures.
yeah, exactly that, because the deadline had passed because it was the day before. So I
got
could
that.
have quite easily done a screen grab of the points page, which would have then shown the correct fixtures. And also, considering I had no players on Friday night, would have just been the same. So it was just that I decided to post it a day late while I was doing nothing, because why not? So no, I didn't miss the deadline. James. I made 2 transfers, which were the 2 transfers that I thought I would make, and 2 transfers that I'm super happy with, to be honest with you. I sold Trent, I sold Saka, I bought Cole Palmer, and I bought Josko Gvardiol. Gvardiol's 9-pointer, Palmer's 10-pointer for 19 points. I think Saka and Trent were worth 10 between them. Yeah, so a 9-point swing. But not only that, I mean, Gvardiol, he looked good in that City performance in terms of the positions he was taking, and just he's a good football player. And Cole Palmer, I mean, just could have been more, to be honest with you. So
Actually,
I made
his
those 2
XG
transfers.
was really low in the game.
Yeah, use your eyes.
It's true.
I think is what I would just say. What I would say with that, but ended up being a decent week for me. 66 points, which rose me up from about 600k to about 500k. Peaked out at 300k, but considering I had no players in the Liverpool Arsenal game, by the end of it, it was only going to get potentially worse for me. So did okay, James. I had returns from obviously Erling Haaland as captain, Bryan Mbeumo, who I didn't captain, but still 15 points, you can't complain. Smith Rowe, Cole Palmer, Rico Lewis and Gvardiol, double City defence came in nicely for me as well. The disappointments were your team, James, with Porro and Solanke doing nothing, and Aston Villa with Rodgers and Watkins doing nothing. Mark Flecken didn't do anything, but at this point I've accepted that my goalkeeper choices this season are cursed, and I will get no clean sheets from my goalkeeper for the remaining 29 game weeks of the season.
I was thinking of you when I was watching Everton Fulham as well, going into injury time. Leno looking at least, a clean sheet potentially.
I don't really want to take pleasure from him not getting points, but it did kind of make my day a little bit. But yeah, fairly happy with that overall, and happy with my team as well, like in terms of going into the upcoming weeks. Currently, my game plan is to be able to roll through 10, roll through 11, and then during that international break, when there's quite a few swings for game week 12, to mix it up a little bit. There are so many options at the moment. Looks like I could go from Erling Haaland to Jackson, or even drop it down further to Wood or Wissa. Smith Rowe, that would give me enough money to get from Smith Rowe.
Cunha timing is now as well, isn't it?
Yeah, potentially. But also Haaland looked good at the weekend. Like I say, he looked good. We can talk about it when we talk about the games. But that gives me money to get from Smith Rowe to Salah, and also a little bit of spare change to get from Flecken to Raya. I can make 4 decent changes around that time. If I didn't go to Salah and decided Saka was the one, then that gives me even more money to turn Porro into Trent, for example. Right, selling Erling Haaland opens up a world of opportunity, though I'm not so sure that I will do it. I think a lot of people are on that. A lot of people
it's easier said than done until you press the buttons.
Like the number of people that tweeted screenshots of Haaland and 1 or 2 other players out, and then 2 or 3 players in at the weekend. I was like, okay, well, up until now, it's all the cool kids that have been without Haaland. What happens when everyone else sells Haaland? Do all the cool kids start buying Haaland? Does it come back into fashion to own him? I think it looks tempting right now because it's only 1 goal in 4 and no BPS at the weekend.
Because he didn't because he didn't get the second, right? If he'd got the
which
second, it would have been worth 7 for him, wouldn't it?
it would have been huge. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm not selling now this week anyway. I'm going to try and keep my nerve until the international break, because then having 4 transfers during the international break before some swings almost feels like a second mini wild card, and that's what I want to kind of work towards.
You have Gabriel though, Such.
Yes. Yeah. And Greaves.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're going into every week with Rico Lewis. And I guess while Carl Walker's out, that's all right. But at any week, you're down to 10, aren't you? Subject to the news on Gabriel, obviously. But I would just suggest the fact that he comes off injured in a game like that says that he's possibly going to be out for a while, right? As speculation of MCL, which is not the terrible ACL, but MCL could be anything from a little bit of damage, might be like a week or so, or worst case scenarios up to sort of like 2 months.
Yeah, not good. But we'll keep an eye on that news. To be honest, this week, if I was to second bench him this week, my first sub is Dibbling. The only problem is my 2 injured players are both defenders. Therefore, if Lewis didn't play or Porro or Gvardiol didn't play, I haven't got anyone coming on in their place because you need to play 3 defenders. That's the only frustrating thing, is both my injuries are defenders as it stands at the moment. If he's out long term, then yeah, by all means, I'm not scared of making that move early to somewhere else.
That's probably going to keep you Haaland in this week, isn't it?
I was Haaland in this week anyway.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm selling Haaland, I'm trying to hold out till the international break.
So you want to sell Haaland before Tottenham at home, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll be at the Etihad. Are you sure, Serge? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not. This is the thing. I'm very, like, I think a lot of people are really swaying towards Haaland out now. I'm not. I'm still more Haaland in than I am Haaland out. Yeah.
I've never been Haaland in. 1 point more for me this week than yourself, Serge. 67. I was lucky. Very lucky. Bryan Mbeumo captain for 30 points. I mean, had he not got it, I don't know where I'd have dropped to, but it would have been a massive drop, as it is have dropped 1k to, I don't even think it's a K, it's like 500 places or something, down to about 11k, which, considering the fixture Haaland had this week, I'm mightily relieved to get through that. So interestingly, my big flops were kind of the same as you, Tottenham and Aston Villa players. So the same 4 that you've got, plus Arsenal, Liverpool, had a little bit more goal involvement than many of us were expecting. Returns for Saka, Palmer. I bought Jackson.
Yep.
For Jamie Vardy this week. And I also bought Garnacho, but I did bench Garnacho. So Garnacho came in for Jota, and that was a longer term play. That then allowed me to go Jackson in for Jamie Vardy, and Jackson was a player that I really wanted. Friday night, it's like Vardy scored, Chris Wood's gone off again, and then I'm out with, because I said I was taking Harry out on Saturday, and I look at my phone 5 minutes in and he scored already. It's like, I'm going to get obliterated. Look at half time, okay, still only 1-0, but Brentford's 2-2. Boomer's got no involvement. I'm dead here, mate. So, yeah, look, I'm obviously fortuitous in the sense that the penalty, Harry Clark has had an FPL all-timer there, hasn't he, with his -5 on his first Premier League start. Yeah. Own goal, penalty given away, and red card, and 4 goals conceded, obviously, overall. If he doesn't hold him into the box, it's not a penalty, although it's the correct decision. And obviously, he's crossing it at the end.
It's a cross.
Quite clearly.
It's a cross. So, but,
that goal was worth 16 points to me, mate.
Yeah. That's crazy. So, look, that is what you wanted to do. You survived. And we keep moving forward, right? That's what it is. That's what the game is about. Now you're in a position where you've got flexibility and options. You don't have any frees, then. You just got the 1 free now, right? You got 2 now.
Yeah, still 2. I went into this week with 3. Right. To be honest, the intention had been to go to probably Saka to Son with the 3rd, as we discussed on Friday morning.
Yeah, grateful to Ange for being up front and actually giving us the news.
Well, actually, because there's every chance I would have done that, actually. It does sound like he probably could have played.
Yeah.
On what I watched yesterday, I bloody wish he had, actually. So that's still a potential move on the table for me, because I'm conscious of game week 11 captaincy. This week looks rough for me again. for the captaincy. It's bust at the moment on Cole Palmer away to Manchester United, which is fine. But I'm put off by the fact that United are 14th because they ain't going to stay 14th.
Yeah, I mean,
but I also think it could be one more defeat, and what we say about Ten Hag nearly every week, isn't it?
But whilst they don't have Kobe Mino and they're playing Christian Eriksen and Casemiro to be the two that are trying to stop Cole Palmer, he's going to run rings around them, mate. I'm not being funny. We've seen how good he is. It's at Old Trafford. That's the only thing I would say. And United will be licking their wounds from yesterday. So yes, but Chelsea from an attacking point of view are good. I really like your Jackson Shell. And I don't think you'll do badly out of Garnacho as well from what I saw of him yesterday. So yeah, let's see. I'm going with Erling again away at Bournemouth. I think it's just a fine choice.
I would as well.
Yeah, and he's right on it without City being right on it, I would say.
The 2-3s for me definitely could get used this week. It's a couple of moves I'm considering. With Gabriel, obviously, big doubt. I've set the team up bust this week, ironically taking both my double Arsenal defence out. So my other goalkeeper is Flappy Suj, as we might talk about in a bit. And if Gabriel is out, then obviously I'm not fancying Arsenal so much defensively. So I could even bench Raya potentially this week if Flappy keeps his place. Will he, Suj, by the way, just briefly?
He made a few. He made a few good saves.
Made one
yesterday.
Really good save in the first half. Didn't
he? Yeah, he didn't do anything. I mean, he had a couple of moments. The Dallo chance, maybe, where he was left a bit for dead.
Out, yeah.
Yeah, I think he will keep his place. We've won, right? I think you got to remember Lopetegui made 3 changes at half time, and it was the second half team that won the game. But he was in that second half team, so I don't think he'll want to change it going into Forest away. I think he'll play.
I'm tempted to get up to Mo. If I go Saka to Mo, there's a couple of options open to me. One is Gabriel to a 4.1 defender or less. I would probably go Sepp Vandenberg of Brentford, despite the fact that I don't fancy a clean sheets in it for him in any game. But actually, the next 4 are okay. And I could use him or Wout fast this week. And then Vandenberg for the next 3. I don't think is terrible to give me a little breathing space. Then when Tottenham go to sit in 12, maybe jump Porro back up to an Arsenal defender. Or I could also go Watkins to Cunha is the one I would go up front. That has a little bit of wiggle room in terms of sort of like 0.04 or so. Obviously, if I went Vandenberg, I've got 0.1 wriggle room on the Gabriel out and then the Saka to Salah. But I definitely want to get those midweek cup games out of the way. If I walk into another problem, I'm potentially in trouble here. So this week looks quite rough for me. Then I feel like I'm on a home straight of the strategy plan, shaping up quite well against those who are going to wildcard in 12, I think.
There's no, when I'm looking at it over the next few weeks, it's not until kind of 12, 13 where you see a nice sea change of fixtures. Everybody's got, in the next 2 or 3, everybody's got maybe 2 good, 1 bad, or 1 good, 2 bad, that kind of thing, which is why I'm reluctant to make a big lot of changes the next couple of weeks. It does feel like, there's a little bit of good, little bit of bad for almost everybody. I'm like, okay, I don't want to sell Watkins. Tottenham away and Liverpool away, which is not great, but then he's got Palace at home, which is, and Tottenham away, he'll get a couple of chances in that game. I've no doubt about that. So is it that bad? Even Tottenham, right? Like, a lot of people are banging their heads against Dominic Solanke's head right now, but it's 2 home games and the second one's Ipswich. Am I really going to be selling him before Ipswich at home in 2 games' time? And I know a lot of people...
That's still my captain in Gameweek 11 as it stands.
Yeah, so no. I can see where it's a bit tricky for people, right?
Well, this week you've got 6 of the expected top 8 playing each other, right? So you've got Tottenham against Villa, you've got Newcastle against Arsenal, and you've got Manchester United against Chelsea. The 9th expected team probably is Brighton. They go to Liverpool. And I've said already, I think City at Bournemouth is right sticky this weekend as well. So all of the expected top 8 have got challenges this weekend.
Be an interesting set of fixtures. It's why I'm kind of like, where are you going to? Like, I don't think where you're going to is ever particularly.
But a lot of people are wildcarding Suj. A lot. That includes Clates is active.
Yep.
He's done it. Me and Clates are going to cover that on Clayton and James show on Wednesday and look at some options for him. I tell you what I'm a little scared for people is I think we always say the template moves during the course of the season. I think because of the fixtures, if people wildcard at the moment, they'll be tempted to go with a front three of things like Wood, Cunha and Visser. Something like that. Now, all three of them really good options at the moment. Don't have any qualms with that. But you are cutting yourself out of a hell of a lot of players. And if you then want to go to Haaland back,
Watkins,
that is so far.
Jackson.
Even to Watkins would be a challenge.
Yeah.
But it's obvious. I think people want to go now, Saka, Salah and Palmer. They want to go all three. Yeah, I'm sitting here and thinking Saka could even end up as a sacrifice for me this week.
I did try and put together a team with Haaland, Salah and Palmer. It's not impossible, but it looks horrible.
The thing is, with particularly Salah and Palmer, and this is part of the thing I'm thinking, and I've obviously gone without Mo all of this season so far. Salah and Palmer captaincy moving forward covers really nicely now. Like you could go Salah the next couple, then Palmer walks into all these great fixtures, and obviously you could just drop into Mo at any time. And then that allows you to strip away a little bit more things like I've spoken about, maybe taking Watkins out. I look at Watkins, and sure he'll have opportunities at Tottenham at the weekend, but 3 of the next 4 are Tottenham away, Liverpool away, and Chelsea away. Like, how big's he gonna go? Right?
Yeah.
The last 2 home games he's blanked.
There's a little bit of Champions League in between as well.
And also they get to. I keep looking at this that when they get to game week 14, they've got Brentford at home and Southampton at home in a row. And I'd probably arguably captain him in both because I think Brentford are there to be targeted from a captaincy perspective at the moment. Probably a scene again at the weekend if you've got the right opponent against them. And that's not happened so much so far this season. But it's a 3-day spacing and they've got a game 3 days before and a game 3 days afterwards. I'm like, like he could easily not play Southampton at home, for example, couldn't he? You've got a shit other forward in John Durant, haven't they? So I might even Watkins off. It also feels like if I'm going Cunha, it's almost like a kind of a now or a never move, mate. Maybe either this week or next, anyway. And that's the that's the one I would want to go to is Matthias Cunha.
He is pretty popular in FPL circles at the moment. Him and Wood, obviously, and a lot of people still on DCL and really frustrated with him. Him and Solanke seem to be the 2 strikers that people have the hump with at the moment more than any others.
I would say for me at the moment, my intention with Porro and Solanke is to cut them both in game week 12. And probably mental health wise, I'm in a good position. Just get Tottenham players out of my team. And let FPL take care of itself. Clearly now, 3 games in a row, he's had next to nothing in terms of opportunity. Because I kept saying, look back at 5 and 6. That's now 3 in a row. He's had next to nothing. But as I said, as it stands, and I would, like, if we was game week 11 this coming week, I would have the captaincy bust on Solanke right now. So I don't really want to take that out at this moment, 2 home games. At home, we're a different animal.
Yep. No doubt about it. Let's talk about the games, shall we, James? And then we'll rattle off on some of the players that are popping up of interest in as we go through. Starting with the Friday night football, Leicester 1, Nottingham Forest 3. I mean, the big talking points. Chris Wood's getting so much attention. He is yellow flagged as it stands at the moment.
That won't be a concern.
But he picked up a knock. But he's now up to 7 goals, 0 assists so far this season, but 7 goals, and he's picking up bonus points for fun as well. 14 bonus points out of his 59 points so far. He's
might be second or third highest for bonus points, I think.
Which is no surprise. We talked about the big thing with him is talismanic, right? If Forest are going to get goals, he's going to be in amongst it.
It does feel like they'll win games 1-0 and he'll score the goal and it'll be 9 points and you're happy with that.
He's 6.4. No temptation to go to him over Cunha.
Me?
Yeah.
I knew that they're playing West Ham this week. Otherwise, no. Look at what's coming. If you compare him versus Cunha, like, okay, West Ham, I actually think the next 2 are fine for Forest. Like Newcastle at home as well is fine. He scored a hat-trick against them on Boxing Day, didn't he? But then afterwards, you've got like fixtures like Arsenal away, City away, United away, then 3 of the next 4. And I just think if let's say you get him in, and a lot are on and be delighted, and that's absolutely fine. But if you didn't do great in the next two, and then you land and it's Arsenal away, and you're looking at them fixtures, you're compelled to move it, I think. And then you're sitting and you're going, "Oh, I've missed Cunha's best two. Oh, this is coming towards the end of his run now. And he's, oh, I want to get back to, oh, look, other teams are coming into good fixtures." No, if people were setting up like Wood to Jackson in 12, I quite like that sort of move. I think that'd be like a really ballsy move. If people go, yeah, I'm going to take these next two home games and then chain it on. So I think if I get him in, I'd be thinking, all right, short-term stuff. Clearly, if I could roll back a clock, I'd go, yeah, that's a player would have been brilliant to get in. How many people would have picked, say, Calvert-Lewin over Wood?
Plenty.
Oh my God.
I'm suffering with stubbornness here, where I'm like, I still, half my brain is saying, is Chris Wood, and he plays for Nottingham Forest.
No, I wouldn't.
How long can it continue for? I've missed the boat with his 7 goals already. I don't see him continuing to score at the same rate that he scored. It's that bias that you have in your mind of who it is, who he plays for. He's overperformed what we thought he would so far. Therefore, the only logical thing is that he regresses and underperforms, and I've missed the boat. But these are the biases that we have in our mind, right? That I think I need to snap out of. Though I just don't know where I would get. Who would I get him in for? I'm not selling Watkins Solanke or Erling Haaland at the moment. So unless it was to fund Salah, I don't think I see myself doing it.
No, it's not on the table for me, but he won't be far from my thinking, because quite clearly, if you ever wanted a Nottingham Forest attacker, that's him, right? I mean, to flip it the other way, there'd be other people going, yeah, I tell you what, game week 13, James, Liverpool and City are playing each other. Who am I going to captain that week? Well, Wood's got Ipswich at home. So Ipswich at home sandwiches the Arsenal and Manchester City away games. So I completely understand if people want to go, yeah, I'm happy to keep going with that. Yeah, I get it completely. But for me to go and chase that and invest new, no, I would take a different path, I think, at this stage personally. But he's bang on it. I mean, that finish for the second goal is proper classy.
Yeah, I think for me, I would be trying to chase a bit of upside with a position like that. And like Vissa, for example, his next 4, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, Leicester, are just as good as Forest's next 2, let's say, and then they've got harder fixtures. I'd be looking at saving 500,000 and going down that road rather than potentially going down the Chris Wood route.
Yeah, I look at the fixtures and quite clearly, yes, sure, Wood is definite the talisman. But say, for example, the fact that Cunha's also done quite well, considering the rough fixtures that he's had, bonus points again for him at the weekend. I have no regret on the fact that Cunha's not been sitting in my team, because the fact that Wolves have had those fixtures, right? Forest, I keep looking at it. I'm thinking, yeah, longer term, that's rough. I said previously, I did this with Clates the other week, said that from between the next 2 international breaks, which is obviously a really, really long time, but 12 to 29, I've got Forest bottom of my ticker. So over a long sustained period, I'd probably want to attack other people. That is not, by the way, to suggest that anybody that owns they should be moving on, because they 100% are not going to be. And you'll be delighted to have him going into this week. In fact, he's arguably a captainable player this week now at home to West Ham, considering the fixtures that others have got. Like, if I was sitting with him in, I'd consider it. I don't hate that.
I wouldn't.
He's so good defensively now.
Fan. Yeah,
saw that again yesterday.
I wouldn't consider him. Look, you got to look at the second half. I don't think we will line up in the same way, so I wouldn't consider it. But that's not to say he can't score. I just don't think he'll go off big. I think I'd be looking for bigger upside.
For similar long-term reasons, I'm actually, despite the fact the underline's really good, I'm not looking at Forest defensive assets, actually, personally, at the moment either. I think the best of it feels like it's gone, actually, in my opinion. So I think there'll still be really good options to use as rotatables. So if you are looking at something like Milenkovic is probably the one I'd still go for over Aina, I would argue. Yeah, you could definitely use them as rotatable options. For Leicester, so when Vardy scored, I was like, oh, did Murillo touch it? That's what I was thinking. Please tell me that's an own goal. I didn't really want to sell him ahead of Forest and Ipswich, but I knew for me I had to get on the crowd ahead of the crowd of Jackson, or I wasn't going to get there probably in game week 12 because of other issues. because I knew Vardy would become Cunha. I actually wanted to prioritise Jackson with the fixture that Chelsea had this weekend. So look, Jamie Vardy's ticking over absolutely fine. They've got Ipswich away this weekend. So if I was still sitting there with Vardy, I probably wouldn't have been going to say Vardy to Cunha this week. I'd have probably been waiting one more, actually. I think the problem they had Friday night was, and I think, we spoke last week about Tottenham and West Ham's results in game week 7.
Yep.
Kind of had an impact on that
8.
fixture in game week 8 because Lopetegui probably thought, well, Ipswich was really good. I'll stick with the same team. And Tottenham had their ears burning from the second half performance at Brighton and then came out firing at the start of the second half against West Ham. This felt a little bit the same for Leicester in the sense their victory at Southampton, where I'd said to you that Fatu would come on and made a real difference. And it was like, we've got to play the next game because he's been so involved in their comeback at Southampton. And I also thought he'd bring Harry Winks into the team for Oliver Skipp because you'd think, well, Forest are a more passive team. We'll have more of the ball. We'll pick a really offensive team. And that's what they did. And it cost them, I think, because on transitions and turnovers, Forest have got good ball carriers in the wide areas. I think they suffered a bit from that. Actually, Forest could have won this by more. I mean, Ryan Yates could have had a hat-trick, mate. He scored a nice goal from the edge of the box. He missed 2 sitters in the second half. I mean, one was offside, the header that hit the post, actually, but he should have got a second. That's not to suggest he's a fantasy asset, by the way. But yeah, that was, watching the last sort of 15, 20 minutes of the game, you were like, there is no way Leicester are getting back into this. And that also speaks well for Forest, because defensively, they are strong. They have all the hallmarks of the Wolves team that Nuno had. Different system, but strong defensively. Games normally low scoring. I think that's why they particularly enjoyed this Friday, because they could have romped away with it. And in up front, they have a talisman that feels very similar from a fancy perspective to how Raul Jimenez used to feel for us.
Yeah.
So I get it. Yeah, they're doing really great, Forest. I wouldn't say they'll do bad in the next 2 games either, but there is a tougher run after that. Leicester not on radar. We'll get the opinion of Aaron Lagos on COTC. That's going to be tomorrow. We're going to do Ipswich Leicester with Paul and Aaron. And one of the big conversations of people going, what are you doing that for? I don't want their assets. Yeah, I get that, but I want to discuss targeting them.
Yep.
I think that was a really bad result for Leicester, considering for Cooper, the Forest thing, we've spoken before that the fans there weren't particularly happy with him. And I think he got built into the idea of, I must go offensive against Forest because of what happened last time, who the opponent is, all the psychological stuff around him. And it backfired quite spectacularly, actually.
Let's move on to Saturday, James. Aston Villa 1, Bournemouth 1. When you kind of look at the stats on the game, Bournemouth didn't have any big chances, only racked up an XG of 0.3 and equalised in the 96th minute. Villa, pretty dominant for the majority of the game, are going to come away with this. I mean, they obviously had the disallowed goal as well. Ball was clearly off, though. 3 big chances for Villa. They're going to come off this thinking we should have won this, and they've thrown it away at the end. I don't know, how much do you think, like, Villa have had a few results where you're like, actually, do you know what? They haven't been great. Like the Man United victory at home was a very flat performance as well.
0-0, wasn't it, Suj?
Yeah, but it was a flat game. Like, it's just Champions League hangover or European.
But I don't think this was
hangover.
On Saturday. Like, even Andoni Iraola
don't
said,
get me wrong,
like, they deserve to win. When the opposing manager says that, that tells you a lot, I think.
But they didn't win, right? So, you got to get the results that match the performances. I don't know.
Yeah, but they didn't win the game because the spacing is wrong on the defending of a set piece, and Evan Nilsson scores a header, which, I mean, such a low probability of him actually finding a net from that position with a header. It's a superb header. So yeah, I wouldn't think, oh, that's terrible for Villa. I mean, Villa doing great.
That had an XG of 0.04. I've got it in front of me now. It basically is nothing.
Exactly. So it's low probability effort. Villa has said, walking in some tougher ones now. Tottenham away, Liverpool away, Chelsea away. So despite the fact, yes, of course, inevitably Watkins is going to have chances against my team at the weekend. If I do decide to move it on, I wouldn't be like, I'm selling him before Tottenham, because I would think, okay, look, there is justifiable on some of the fixtures afterwards. And again, look at that space in 14 to 15 worries me a little bit. And I've been doing a bit of kind of diving into players like that and where concerns might be, because if I continue on a path with no Haaland, which is I am, aren't I, at the moment? And maybe no Salah. I need to be really conscious of captaincy. That set of fixtures, game week 14 is obviously a midweek. And that's when Villa play Brentford at home. And as I said, I think they're Wednesday night. They're the Sunday before that at Chelsea. Then it's Wednesday Brentford. Then Saturday Southampton. Then Tuesday Champions League. And I'm like, shit, he is not starting all four of them games.
Yeah, John Duran, I'm sure will get minutes at some point.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about that sort of thing. So you need a little bit of context when you're looking at some of these fixtures further down the line. I might cut him, but I don't want to. He's so consistent, Watkins. But there could be a case to do it on the fixtures. Rodgers, I think I'm just pretty happy just to leave as eighth attacker for me. Bought him at 5. I think now you might get a few people come off because they're just trying to cut and move money any way they can. So like him to a Diblin, for example, or even a lower. But generally speaking, I'm just pretty happy to continue with him. Defensively, not on radar for me at the moment. Bournemouth, after this one, do come onto radar, I think. They've had a really challenging run of fixtures. When Neil Grover's going to come on COTC next week for their game away to Brentford. Then they come into a really good run of fixtures as well. So for those holding on to Semenyo, I probably want to hold on at the moment. That said, he's on 4 yellow cards now. And there's a number of players that are really scary from that perspective.
We better start yellow card watch now. It's that time.
Yeah, we are there. There is definitely a team knocking about that will have loads of players on like 4 yellow cards at the moment. Yeah. It's going to get decimated in one go, which could include me, right? Because I've got Jackson and
I looked
both
at
on
the
3, I think.
I looked at the Chelsea game, and Chelsea had 6 yellow cards yesterday.
And they both avoided
and they avoided them. So you're talking about half the team picked up a yellow, and the 2 that we wanted to avoid.
I mean, that was arguably Jackson's greatest achievement yesterday, is that 6 Chelsea players got booked and he wasn't one of them. He wasn't one of them.
Yeah, well done. Indeed.
Maybe me buying him has fixed him. Semenyo.
It's too early.
Semenyo, I can understand moving on. I'd just say, look ahead beyond this week. Then there's a good run of fixtures. That said, he played on the left again. And he's definitely more threatening off the right from a fantasy perspective because he can come in and likes to strike, obviously, off his left side. He was really unlucky with the booking, by the way, because I just think different referees would interpret that as a penalty, actually. It's pretty unlucky. I'll have another look at Bournemouth again from next week onwards, actually. I quite like Kepa. If people are looking for a long-term goalkeeper, you wouldn't do it this week because it's City. But afterwards, and obviously he's not played at the weekend. Mark Travers made one really good save, actually, in the first half. But once he's back fit, obviously Kepa will go back in goal. He'll be on next to nobody's radar. He might be an interesting one. A lot of their defenders dropped last week as well. The majority of them are now 4.4. There might be something there to look at beyond next week. And I think we'll talk about it when it comes around.
Rodgers for me is a 7th attacker, not an 8th attacker. Dibbling I've got alongside. But Dibbling's got fixtures where if I needed to play like Everton at home next week, and then Wolves. If I needed to play Dibbling, it doesn't feel like I'm just chucking him in there, take my 2 points and leave. I think he's got potential to pick up returns in there. So Rodgers for me is fine. I've also got 4 defenders, 2 City, Porro and Gabriel. Okay, Gabriel brackets. Have you got 2 cheap? You've got who are your 2 cheapos? You went with the Villa
Nedeljkovic, yeah.
And who
He's
else
not actually dead, if anyone's worried.
No. And who else have you got that's super cheap?
About Fass.
Right, okay. So you've got 3, you're playing 3 at the back. So you kind of need your 5th attacker as a rotation option. I'm playing 4 at the back sometimes. So I'm all right with Rodgers as my 7th attacker.
Yeah. You're stronger, aren't you? Because you got like Lewis. And I could end up making a move like that this week, right? Particularly if Gabriel's ruled out.
Yep.
I suspect he will be.
Possibly in terms of XG and attacking threat, game of the weekend, Brentford 4, Ipswich 3. Brentford racked up at XG of 4, although penalty and what have you. Ipswich didn't and managed to get 3 goals on the score sheet. Like to take the lead 2-0 in the way they did. Brentford, you'd be looking at it thinking, we shot ourselves in the foot here by being so open at the back to let them get in and score those goals. Well taken goals, you've got to say. from an Ipswich point of view. I think a lot of people, do we know, was Delap carrying a knock or just dropped for Hurst?
I mean,
He came on.
He changed the whole attacking line. So like Schmoditz came in for Jack Clark. Chaplin came in for Hutchinson. Ogbene came in for Burns. And actually on the goal that Hurst scores, Ogbene picked up, we think it's a really serious injury. We think he might have done his Achilles. If he has done it badly, that could be season over actually for Chidozie Ogbene, unfortunately. That might allow more minutes for Schmodix. I don't know how comfortable we'd be playing off the right. It's probably one Blackburn fans could answer a bit better, actually. But I know McKenna likes to play Wes Burns on the right-hand side because it allows them to, he can go in really defensively. And then they obviously have this bias with Leif Davis going down the left-hand side. It was a brilliant cross for Delap's goal, actually. But the way George Hurst took his goal would make Delap owners very concerned going into this weekend because it was a super finish, wasn't it? Beautiful
very
little
good
thing. That is a positive for them that they've got two number 9s there now who are in confident mood, right? Massive game for them this weekend, coming up against Leicester before they then come to my place in game week 11. But actually, their fixtures stay good. We've spoken about this a number of times for a number of weeks afterwards. So I might even look at them as a solution for me this week, Suj.
Short term.
Yeah, defensively, maybe. Just to cover me for a few weeks. Not that it'll cover me in game week 11. And then I'd have Ipswich and Leicester defensively.
But they're not keeping clean sheets.
Tottenham. I know.
This is Brighton, isn't it? That 0-0. I don't think
if I take Gabriel out for 4.0, like I don't think Van der Berg's keeping clean sheets either.
No.
If I take him out and want to make that move to push Mo Salah in, then I'm looking at options at 4.1 and below, and they've got a couple, haven't they? So
Greaves is 4.1. He's not available, so you're looking elsewhere, really.
They're there to be targeted, though, aren't they? So it's 8 goals conceded in the last 2 away games, isn't it? And that's to come back to like Dominic Solanke. That's all I keep thinking.
Keep it.
Like he could blank. If I kept him and he blanked again this week and he gets
still
keeping
him,
and he gets me 2 and I captain him against Ipswich, that's job done, isn't it?
Exactly.
All the blanks would have been worth it.
And you'll enjoy selling him after that so much.
Yeah, I could also bench him in 12 with the way it probably lines up for me with Villa and United's fixtures that week, i.e. Rodgers and Garnacho for me. Anyway, that's a Tottenham conversation. Massive game for Ipswich. We'll talk about them more on Cash of Correspondence tomorrow. For Brentford, clearly I've been very lucky with the Mbeumo captaincy, but based on what my players did on the pitch, and I don't mean outcome, I mean based on expected performance, based on what happened on the pitch, Mbeumo was the right captaincy call for me, say, over Palmer. So yes, fortuitous, but the underlying was still pretty decent for him. Yes, the penalties obviously a huge impact on that. He has been phenomenal. I actually looked, Suj, I think if I'd captained Mbeumo, this is funny, if I captained Mbeumo every week, I'd be on 1-2 points less, including the captaincy, than what I've got from all my captaincy returns so far.
He's second only to Salah and Palmer in midfielders now, and just behind Haaland in terms of overall points, I think, right?
He don't cost a premium price, and he's still got 4 good fixtures to go, basically.
Yeah, picked him up at 7.1, as did you. He just keeps rising, and he's going to keep rising all the way through to game week 14. Set and forget. Like I don't even.
What do you do if you don't own him? Do you still go and get him, or just that we've spoken about, say, with Wood, and we've gone. For us, it's probably no. What do you do if you don't own Mbeumo? You still go, oh my God, he's going to be 7.8 really soon, isn't it? If he's not already.
But what are we comparing him against? You've got Jared Bowen, who picked up a penalty at the weekend, otherwise wouldn't have returned. You've got the Liverpool boys, maybe Jota, who's out, or Diaz at that kind of bracket, maybe. Who are you looking at? Are you looking at Bruno Fernandes in the same bracket? Like I'd have him ahead of, maybe not the Liverpool guys, though their fixtures, meh. He's talisman. He's on penalties. I think you do at 7-7, James. When I look at my midfield and I'm looking at when I'm going to upgrade to Salah or Saka to go alongside Palmer, and Mbeumo's my second highest value midfielder. Yeah, I never look at him being the sacrifice, it's always Smith Rowe, who's my third highest. Smith Rowe at 5 point whatever he is, 9 or whatever now, 7, 8, 9, is the one that I would sacrifice. I wouldn't even consider Mbeumo, and he's the closest in price to the next premium. So I don't know if that says it for you. Like I don't see how when, if ever, never I'm selling him. He's staying. So the flip is true.
I've got game week 14 rain because it's a great swing for West Ham then.
Yeah. Keep your eyes on whether West Ham are worth it then.
The problem is, and this is psychological, so I've had him all season. So obviously had him at 7. Now, he's going to hit 7.8. That's quite clearly. To be honest, you probably expect him to do well over the next couple. Also, the fact that he is in that price bracket and scored so many points, those of less of attention maybe would still just go and buy him anyway because of the sheer volume of points he's got. So we're probably sitting here in a few weeks and he's probably 7.9 or 8. All right. If you sell him, how difficult is it psychologically to then go back to him?
Yep.
Sure, you bank the money, and I'd be banking the money to probably sell him at 7.4 or 7.5 at the kind of price point of Jared Bowen, which would just become like a straight swap. Or obviously Mohamed Kudus, I've mentioned this before, will have next to no ownership and presumably
he'll be low sixes. Yeah,
will be backed by them. So that would move money as well. So yeah, we've long looked at that. The Brentford to West Ham swing in game week 14 at that level would have been a plan for me in game week 1. If I still had Mbeumo at this point, but it'll be incredibly difficult to sell. That is a tough run they've got from that point, though. So Villa away, Newcastle at home, Chelsea away, Forest at home is now you're not expecting big things. Brighton away, Arsenal at home. Well, that's when West Ham come into really good fixtures at the same time. So it's a maybe, but I mean, clearly now at this point it'd be going nowhere. You'd think his prices still keep going. Yeah, you would be looking at, I'm buying now, Ipswich at home's gone, right? It's psychological though, isn't it, if you don't own? Those who picked up Visser will be delighted. He's really unfortunate not to get the second goal as well. I think they've deemed it as an own goal because the ball is slowing down and Clark therefore has the opportunity to clear it, but because he's sliding, he carries it into the goal, basically. And that's why I think it's gone down as an own goal. He's really unlucky not to get it, though. Great pickup for those who did it.
3.7% owned is so low ownership.
Exact money.
If he does well, he will shoot you up the ranks.
Exact money. Instead of what I've done, I've just gone Vardy to Jackson. I could have gone Vardy to Visser and Saka to Salah. And I'm not saying I regret it. The reason I didn't do it is because I knew it was going to cut me off of Jackson again. I knew it, and I really wanted to get Nicholas.
Unless Watkins to Jackson is a move that you want to make rather than Cunha or...
But at the time I would have wanted to make it, I'd have been making it a point, say, game week 12, where Watkins got Palace at home, and I'm going on. Don't want to do that now. Do you know what I mean? It never would have worked out for me. And then I'd have cut myself off the money where I wouldn't have been able to go to Solanke to Jackson in that week, potentially. So that's the reason I never made that move. But yeah, I'm keen on Visser. Was it at 5.9 or something?
5.9 with 3.7% ownership, which is it's just nothing.
That's a great little enabling one. At the moment.
I really like the look of Visser.
I do think that's a shorter term one because of the fixtures over the next couple. Then you may want to chain that onto something else. So personally, I'd still be looking at paying the extra over for Matthias Cunha. Would be my favourite on that at the moment. Defensively, but when we do hit that tough period from people like Watkins 14, Isak 15, Palmer 16, definitely, Saka 19, against this Brentford, the way they're defending at the moment, are genuinely captainable options. They should be when it comes around, they should be near the top of teams that we're attacking. Every week I'm saying the same thing to you, Suj. They are evolving and they're becoming very enjoyable to watch, but it's also making them very vulnerable at the moment.
Let's talk about the Brighton Wolves game. Desmond Tutu. I remember this iconic picture of Declan Rice. I think who Arsenal
Liverpool
playing?
last year,
right? I remember Doyle. Hold my beer.
It just doesn't quite hold because he's a smaller lad. Just doesn't quite hold the same way.
No, but honestly, that photo of it's got to be iconic as a Premier League moment. allied to the fact that they go and score at the upper end. And
he assists it. It's his assist.
It's ridiculous. What a moment! Like it's not a glamorous moment in Premier League history, but it's just amazing, really, really iconic. Brighton are going to be upset with letting the lead slip in this way, but Wolves, I think now they will feel right. Okay, we've been through the shit now. We've managed to get this draw and scrape it away at Brighton. Let's get down to business. Like anybody who's on Aït-Nouri, Cunha, who's gone early for these assets is going to be laughing. I think I feel like it was PJ Hindu Monkey tweeted something along the line, because Andy Martin's got Cunha and Aït-Nouri. I think he got more points in the last 5 minutes of this game than Haaland captainers or something like that, just because Aït-Nouri and Cunha came up trumps right at the end there.
You're not expecting Aït-Nouri to score from a corner, by the way. That no one had that on the bingo card.
But he did.
He did, yeah. Which technically was a Craig Dawson assist. Before I forget, important note on Wolves, right? So Aït-Nouri, Semedo, Toti Gomez, and João Gomez are all on 4 yellow cards.
Oof.
It's an interesting thing to this. So, like, Aït-Nouri would obviously do me on the face of it. Just forget maybe moving to Salah. So let's say Gabriel's ruled out for a while, and all the things I've spoken about going to Cunha. I do think, yeah, Aït-Nouri, James, just good long-term fixtures. And you know, if it's not working, we use him more as a rotatable. But certainly, the next 2 home games with Palace and Southampton, I think you'd be very happy in the minimum to start him. 4 yellows, man. Do you know what I thought as well? So this is a different perspective. This is a Tottenham perspective. Mickey van der Ven is on 4 yellows, right? And I'm looking at it and I'm going, get booked this weekend, Mickey. And miss Ipswich at home.
Yeah, I get it.
Rather than don't miss Man City away against Haaland. And that's probably the inevitable what happens, isn't it? Don't do that. Like make yourself available for City, please. So I'm looking at it and going, I hope Mickey van der Ven gets yellow carded this week. And if Tottenham are sensible about it, he'll get booked at the weekend and miss Ipswich. Yeah. It's not to say Ipswich can't cause us problems, but it's just looking at it logically. Do any Wolves players look at it logically and go, Southampton in 11, skip that? Or is it different because the game's so important, i.e. they're both at the bottom of the table? It's probably different, isn't it?
They need to win. I think if you... it's a tricky one, James. Honestly, it's a tricky one. If it was me, for Wolves where they are in that situation, I would say just focus on getting points. Like put that out of your mind. They need points, right? There's a kind of gap developing between Palace, Ipswich, Wolves, Southampton, and then the teams above them. Leicester, I think, will get sucked in. You don't, and Palace obviously won yesterday, so that even they will feel like we can help. Like one more victory, and they'll open up a bit of a gap. So I think for Wolves, points are more important than worrying about trying to be strategic with yellow cards and suspensions. Just do what's going to help to get you the most points on the board, because they don't want that gap to keep getting wider.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm just putting it out there as a conversation. I think, the Southampton game would be more important. That's the one you wouldn't want them to miss, because that's basically the most important one at this moment.
The 6-pointer.
Gary O'Neill did seem to suggest after the game on Saturday that they may go back to a back 4 now. And they finished the game with one here as well. And obviously they're chasing, it's understandable. But they might go back to a back 4. That's not to put anybody off Aït-Nouri. And I get it. And I might still go there. But how sick am I if I buy him this week, Suj, and he gets booked?
Yeah.
I'm making another defensive transfer in 11, aren't I? And I've completely ignored that.
If you're buying short term, don't do it.
I have not made a single defender transfer this season. And I want to leave that position alone as much as
apart
possible.
Apart from wildcard, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah, it's different, obviously.
Yeah. I don't think, if you're doing short term, I don't think you can go with the 4 yellows.
It's not short term, is it? If you buy Aït-Nouri now, you're buying him for this period. But at some point there, he's going to miss a game, isn't he? Even if it's not, say, Southampton 11, he'll probably get booked over the next 6.
If you're going to hold him more than 5, 6, 7 weeks, then you just got to stomach it, because it's a long-term move. It's just how much
Yeah.
do you need him? What's your
Well,
alternative
for
in the week that
me,
he gets
if
suspended?
he gets booked in either of the next two, that's really bad for me because obviously 12 at the moment, I've got, say, Porro going to Man City as well. So if he
Then don't do
missed
it.
either 11 or 12, it would look rough.
Then don't do it.
But it's that's the best. It's still the best one to buy at, say, under 4.5 or so. I think it is.
You don't think Mikalenko maybe?
I just think that holds longer term.
Southampton,
Eight
West
Nori.
Ham, Brentford.
He's more exciting than it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. There's no doubt about it.
And Everton walk into proper shit. Like their Christmases are horrendous. They have a 4-game run. You're not picking Mikalenko. Arsenal, Chelsea, City follow Liverpool away. Liverpool at home, sorry, it's 15-18. Like it's awful. And go to United in 13 as well. I don't think you'd be comfortable playing him in that. West Ham away in 11. So you've only got like 3 home games left for, well, not 3 home games for Mikalenko because they go to Southampton this week. But then Brentford at home 12. I mean, is that great defensively? No. So it's Wolves 14, ironically, and then Southampton this week. So probably again, moment no for Everton. So Wolves is the one you want to attack because of the fixtures. It has made me look at Craig Dawson as an alternative.
What price is he? 4-5.
For 4.
Okay.
Shit's in it, man.
I'm sure there's elsewhere we can look and find better value.
Isn't Eight Nori on like 5 attacking returns or something now? Which considering the
Is
fixtures,
he?
I think so. Yeah.
He has 3 goals, 2 assists.
That's what
3
I'm saying.
goals.
From 9 games.
Yeah,
and look
but
at the opponents they've
3
had.
goals is not sustainable, surely.
No, but they might start walking into some clean sheets now, right?
In the last 4 seasons, he scored 2, 1, 1, 1. And he's on 3 this season. So the most attacking returns in any year is 5. And he's on 5 now. So, yeah, is he going to keep getting attacking returns? I mean, positionally, he's also slightly different than maybe he has played previously, more attacking. But
it might go a bit deeper now.
Yeah.
It's worth
if they switch to a 4, you're right.
Yeah. What about Larson versus Cunha?
I want to buy. Why am I blabbering there? I would rather buy Larson because I feel like he's the more exciting pick. If you're talking about exciting picks,
Really?
yeah, but Cunha's probably the better pick.
I think Bradley Parker described this well on COTC a couple of weeks ago. He just said Cunha's got more avenue to points.
Yeah, I would say so. I would probably buy Cunha's on 3.2%, Larson 1.6% ownership. They're both next to nothing, which is understandable.
I just think this is another example. And listen, they kind of know what Larson would do. But from the pricing perspective, it's perfect because he's constantly, is Cunha worth 1 million more than Larson? And I think ultimately the answer here for people is it will depend on your structure a little bit. So if you're sitting there, say, like I was, like Vardy, I'd say I'd blocked myself off of Vardy to Cunha, which was always a concern for me, leaving the Cunha option open. I'd be going Vardy to Larson, probably not this week, next week, because Vardy's got Ipswich this week. But I'd just be booking into Larson. So if your structure dictates that you probably feel like you need to go for Larson, do it. My take would be if you can get the Cunha, do it. If you want to buy one of them, it's not say you have to do it because I might overlook it this week as well.
Just buy Danny Welbeck instead from Brighton.
You could do that as well, who some would have sold this week, unfortunately. And they too have a brilliant run of fixtures coming up after the next 2, which is Liverpool away, City at home. So they will be gutted that they have not won this game. There is also, Evan Ferguson got his first goal in a really long time, taken really well, which was nice to see at the weekend. I think Brighton come right back on radar in game week 12. I also wonder, Lewis Dunk obviously pulled a calf in the warm-up. We don't know anything more at this stage other than we'll need a scan. But I wonder if what happened at the end of the game would have happened if Dunk had been on the pitch. Like after they concede that first goal, if it just pulls them together from an experience perspective, maybe. Because actually what's interesting is, obviously in the first half against my team, back in game week 7, we obviously cut them open quite badly, but then they fixed it. We never looked like scoring in that second half at Brighton. Then they kept a clean sheet at Newcastle. Then there were a few minutes from another clean sheet here as well. And yet I'm thinking of buying Mo Salah to captain this week. Yes, possibly. Is that the best captaincy this week? It's still Haaland, isn't it?
I think it's still Haaland.
Is it
I think
Haaland,
it's still
Salah? Is that
Haaland.
the top two we saying this week?
Yeah.
Oh, look at us, revelation lit. Let's pick the two most expensive players in order for the best captaincy this week.
But Cole Palmer in the mix as well, but he's away at United. They're the highest scoring players in the game as well as being the highest priced players, James. This is easy. I want to talk about Brighton midfielders because there was start of the season. Look, again, Mitoma 6.5, but then the others, whether it was Adingra or Minte or what have you, at 5.5. 5 returns in the last 4 games, James. Ruta. 5 returns in the last 4.
And yet
at
people
5.
still be
5.
sitting there with João Bloody Pedro.
Yeah, I think he's... The thing is, he's not added any BPS or anything with it, but then Brighton have had other goal scorers and stuff in between. He kept a clean sheet against Newcastle as well. But he's ticking along nicely. I think there's eyes on Roots just to see if he can maintain that consistency, because he's another one of that 5.5 value. People might get up with getting rid of Rodgers or something where they're thinking,
reality is, though, quite straightforward. If you were buying a forward at that value this week...
Well, he's a midfielder, isn't he?
Rutter?
Yeah.
Forward, isn't he?
No, 5.5
midfielder.
Midfielder. That's why I'm saying midfielders at Brighton.
You've done me there, Suj. Is he really a midfielder?
He's a midfielder in this game. Jorginho Rota is a midfielder.
I tell you what, that needs more attention. You are absolutely right, aren't you? That needs more attention once we hit game week 12-ish or game week 13. It's not one to look at now because of the next 2 fixtures.
No,
but
I'm just interested in his consistency because it's there so far.
Yeah, really good. I mean, he was great against my team in game week 7. And there's that, right? Again, so go back to, it's not particularly to criticise people who've still got João Pedro, but you don't know when he's back. The next 2 fixtures are terrible. And you've got Visser with his fixtures, Larson with his fixtures, Rutter playing really well. Like, is João Pedro even definitively 100% get back into the team with the way Rutter's playing? Ferguson's now back available, and Welbeck's obviously in great form. So, please move that on.
Yep.
Please. I think that's why Clayton's wildcarded.
just
never get round to selling him, basically. So, Brighton want to watch and wait over the next couple, obviously. They will provide a test for Liverpool and Manchester City, no doubt.
No doubt. Yeah.
They are definitely better defensively than they were under De Zerbi, but Dunk is a blow. Van Heck's a good player, but from a leadership perspective, Dunk will be a miss.
Manchester City 1, Southampton 0. I don't know why I sat through this, to be honest. I know why, because I had Haaland captain, and I thought, well, I had 3 players in this game, so I thought if I've got FPL involvement in any of the 3 o'clocks, whilst the kids are playing Fortnite, I'll watch this. Oh, it's so boring. And I don't know, just because City were happy to win 1-0 and Southampton were happy to lose 1-0. And then the rest of the game was like Southampton had no threat, bar one opportunity at the end of the second half, which they hit the bar from, to be fair. You do shit the bed sometimes with
End
City.
of the first half, wasn't it? Cameron
End
Archer.
of the first half. Yeah. Sorry, did I say second? I meant first.
Sorry.
And yeah, I think just City were probing away. There was no intensity in their need to get the second goal. And it was frustrating. Obviously, City are that good that they will always continue to create chances. But they were creating chances at training game pace, not with intensity. It was a procession, right? Honestly, it was a procession. I didn't feel at any point that there was any risk that, they were not going to win this.
But Pep said Southampton were one of the best teams in the league.
After the game?
That's what he said. I know what he means by that in terms of their style and stuff.
He's just blowing smoke, mate. Don't get me wrong, they were organised, they kept their shape well, but City were not attacking with the intensity of...
That's interesting, the organised comment, because didn't everyone think that City would just beat them to submission?
Hope. They were 4-5-1.
I was trying to use words that weren't offensive, and I was really
City
struggling.
weren't attacking with I've got the bit between my teeth, I need to kill this team. They weren't attacking as they need to kill it. Yeah, Haaland obviously Should have scored 2 or 3 goals. He racked up XG of like 1.4 or something. He should have easily scored more, but it wasn't like attack after attack after attack, chance after chance after chance. It was slow, side to side, side to side, side to side, side to side. And then every now and then we'll pick up and create an opportunity. Dominant, but no intensity. Like if you're inside the stadium watching that game, it's just put your feet up and popcorn time more than like getting involved emotionally in the game, you know?
For those who triple captained Erling Haaland, the outcome is the outcome. The decision is fine. If you knew he was going to have that XG in the game, you'd have stuck the triple captaincy on him. So for those who've done it, just unlucky. Simple as that. And at least it wasn't a complete blank. I realised nobody wanted 6 points from this. And obviously the fact that he missed the chances is obviously he's taken him out the BPS.
He was top previously, BPS.
Yeah, it's the missing of the big chances. As obviously count against him, right? Does mean he's leveling out a little bit. He's still massively overperforming his XG this season, remarkably, despite that at the weekend. But this is a player, we should remind you, posts like an expected goal per 90 of just under 1, which is staggering because the majority of the other best players in this game were nearer the 0.5 mark or 0.6 mark. And I'm talking about the top players here. So if you sell, you know what you're selling. It's not easy. This is the biggest reason, Suj, why I didn't want to buy him ahead of Wolves. Those 2 games, I told you they were the scariest ones for me. Take him on Wolves, Southampton. I said to you that if you told me now he gets 3 goals in those 2 games, I'll take it. I'll just take the red arrows for the next couple of weeks. Don't properly kill me. So for him, from my perspective, for him to come out of those games with just 1, great. But I still would have sat here and found it very difficult to sell him.
The thing is, it's any week. I know you're specifically saying it's Wolves and Southampton where you were scared. You should be scared every week.
It's kind of right, though, isn't it?
So far. But Bournemouth, I don't think you should be any less scared going to Bournemouth all of a sudden.
I've said this for a couple of weeks. I think City might get turned over on Saturday.
But you're also looking at it as what your alternatives are. It's not just will Haaland do well or not. It's will Haaland do well, but do I have players that can match it or keep up with it? It's a 2-part.
Yeah, by the way, if I'd captained Haaland every week, I would have more captain points than what I've got from the captaincy picks I've picked, but it's not a big difference, 12 points. Just then, what have I earned those 12 points by spreading that money into other good players? The answer is yes, obviously, clearly at the moment. So I'm not going to sit here and tell everyone to sell Haaland. That's the right strategy. Because I still think actually that he's the best captaincy option this week.
Yep.
So yeah, I get it. People want to change their structure and stuff like that. For me, despite the fact I think they might get beat at the weekend, I don't think there's anything else. It's not like Salah's got Southampton at home, ironically. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? You got a kangaroo in your house, mate.
That's my computer.
We all heard that, boss.
I watched a video of somebody punching a kangaroo the other day. Have you ever seen a kangaroo?
Why? What? Suj, what? Come on, man.
YouTube. Have you ever seen a kangaroo stand up on its hind legs
and kick? Yeah.
And punch? No, punch like it's boxing.
Really?
And I'm not talking about the UFC on Saturday night, which you saw the double back fist. We need to talk about that on the Patreon Q&A later. No, a kangaroo was attacking a man's dog. And so he went to save his dog. And in saving his dog, the kangaroo stood up like fists and went to punch him. The guy punched the kangaroo. The kangaroo was so confused. Anyway, the bouncing's gone. Talk to me about...
we're real confused listening to you. Why is a kangaroo attacking a dog? I mean, that's brave in itself,
They're
isn't it?
Vicious.
What kind of dog was this?
No. Kangaroos are vicious, James. Kangaroos attack other animals. Like they're shits.
Yeah, but dogs have got a bite on them, haven't they?
Yeah, no, kangaroos are double the size, mate. Massively. If there was a fight between a dog and a kangaroo would win.
So would you rather fight 10 dogs or 1 kangaroo? There you go.
No, it's not 10-1.
You can pick your dog.
Yeah. How about we fight neither, but you continue to fight against Erling Haaland. Yeah, I think a lot are thinking of doing the move though, because of so many screenshots that I saw at the weekend, James, of people with this looks good, this looks tempting, all of that kind of stuff. A
Of
lot going
course
to
it is,
Salah.
especially as well. Look at the weekend, right? Salah, Palmer, and Saka have all outperformed him from an FPL points perspective, right? So the temptation is there. If you don't own those three players, not so much Saka at the moment because the two away games coming up, but I've even said it. I've gone without Salah all season. I'm looking. I can't not look at it this way and go, Salah is the gateway for captaincy here for me.
Mm.
Haaland has been different and easier to avoid because it kills the structure of my team. And that was always the case. I've cut him. I've cut one player off. I've never cut Mo Salah out of my fingers. I can get there, right? I can get there for free this week and catch him. That's always been my idea, was to keep him really close. It's not going to be easy to sell Haaland, though. It will be easy to sell Phil Foden.
Okie dokie, let's talk about Everton 1, Fulham
No,
1.
one
Go
thing on Southampton. Just
Go on then.
one thing. I did say that I thought there might be a little bit in the sense that they've changed over the last couple. Despite the results, they've had less of the ball in those games against Arsenal and Leicester. And actually, their completed pass, this is why Pep said they played so well, Suj. Their completed pass percentage was ridiculous at City in terms of ball retention. I think Match of the Day had highlighted that. It's like over 90% pass accuracy. At the Etihad takes some doing. I'm not convinced that Tyler Diblin will start this week. That's the big thing I wanted to say.
I'm interested in what the stats are first half, second half. Let's have a look here. Statistics.
While you're looking, obviously Adam Armstrong came on for Dibbling at half time, and Armstrong had a little bit of an impact, I think. And I wouldn't be surprised, particularly with that fixture against Everton at the weekend, I wouldn't be surprised if Armstrong now gets another look in for a little bit. That's not just anyone goes and buys Adam Armstrong. I'm just saying that there's a little bit of caution because people have got Dibbling versus, say, Rodgers or, say, Semenyo this week are going to want to play Dibbling because of the fixture. I'm just saying keep an eye on what Russell Martin says during this week. He's not going to tell you if he's going to pick him or not, but you might get something vibe-wise. They're playing the Carabao Cup tomorrow night as well. Just keep an eye on that. I don't think he's a certain starter this weekend, Tyler Dibbling.
James, the first half versus second half. First half, they were pretty even, about 250 completed passes each, City and Southampton. Second half, City were over 300 and Southampton dropped to below 200, which doesn't surprise me because there were periods in that first half where City were happy to just let Southampton knock it around the back. They weren't like all these completed passes. It's side to side at the back stuff. It's not in the final third or in attacking areas. I get it though. Look, very few teams will go to the Etihad and have as much as 43% possession, 44% possession. So I dream of that for my team there. So
just before we move on, just one question for you. You've got Vardiol and Lewis.
Oh, yes. I did want to talk
Which one are you
about that.
happier with? Vardiol's gone up 6.2 now.
Gvardiol. Do you know what I would say about Gvardiol? I think from their defenders, and if you put him in centre-back, left-back, I think he's the best footballer of all of them. I think he's just the best on the ball.
He's a great player. There's no doubt about that.
He is a better player than I thought. I thought they'd paid a lot for him. He just gives you control. He's that when they all push forward and they're moving it around the edge of the box, looking for that opportunity. He's just so neat and tidy compared to the others. Don't get me wrong, Rico Lewis is a good player. John Stones is good on the ball as well, though he's not been starting. Gvardiol's the best football player of all of them, I think.
So if I move Gabriel to one of them, where would you say to go?
Gvardiol, long term, all day long.
And he obviously holds the structure the same as well for me.
And there's attacking returns in him because he's a good football player.
But next four, Bournemouth away, Brighton away, Tottenham at home, Liverpool away. Don't scream clean shades.
I looked at it as who's going to give me my points this week, and he's done it. 9 points in the first week, and then Bournemouth is a bonus, and then after that, beyond that, I'll just address it as and when I need to. I'll be probably moving off double City defence in game week 12, 13, and it'll be Lewis that I'll be looking to move on, not Gvardiol, not even. I look at Gvardiol, I'm very happy that I made that transfer. Very
Worth
happy.
saying the caveat, the other side of that game at Liverpool in 13, then City go on to a really nice run of fixtures. And it's worth saying that as well. For those who are genuinely looking at, those next four fixtures are quite challenging and moving off Haaland. Just a reminder to go and have a look at the fixtures again from after that Liverpool game in 13. Forest at home, Palace away, United at home, Villa away. Okay, challenging. But then there's another 5 great fixtures over the winter period, which starts with Everton at home, Leicester away, West Ham at home. If you go without Erling Haaland, you need the stomach for it. That's the best advice I can give people. How do you feel looking at your team without him in it? Because for the majority of the weeks going forward, he is still going to be the best captaincy. I think pretty much up to Christmas and even going into the new year, it's only really, in terms of captaincy, I think it's 11, where, to be honest, you want to probably go Son home to Ipswich if he's available. And I keep thinking that as well in my mind. I might be going Solanke. That's one you can potentially take on. And obviously 13, he goes to Liverpool. Other than that, the majority of weeks, he's still going to be the best captaincy. And you have to factor that into your thinking.
Let's talk about Everton 1, Fulham 1, James.
Thriller. I knew it would be.
People are very upset with Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Why have we ended up with that game on the 5:30 on the one day that there's no 12:30 as well? Why is that a thing? I said to Mrs. weeks ago, I said, that Saturday you can have whatever you want. Don't you want to watch the 5:30? I said, yeah, I'll watch it, but I'm not bothered. Obviously, I did watch it. But I know how those two teams are going to play. It's not a lot particularly to learn about it. What I did learn actually watching the game is that Fulham were very unlucky not to win it.
They should have won it.
Yeah, they should have. Those who, we've spoken about a lot of enabling forwards. Raul Jimenez for the next 3 still falls massively into that category. Brentford at home. I don't even hate that as a captaincy this week. Raul Jimenez at home to Brentford.
They've been conceding goals.
He'll score. So
can't really
certain he'll score.
Can't argue with it because Brentford have been conceding goals and Raul Jimenez has been scoring goals.
However, I think at this stage I would probably not be investing in the midfielders, no. Unless you were looking to chain it like really quickly into then something else. I'm not really sure why you would, but I guess there'd be people, McNeil obviously, potentially injured. People, Fulham next 3, and I get it. I wouldn't go into any of them, I don't think, at this stage, because I think you will hit sort of game week 13 and then want to move it again because I've got a really tough run of fixtures for 4 from 13 to 16. So I wouldn't be going there unless you're looking to chain it then into another. But McNeil owners might want to look at it if he's ruled out. I get it. I guess the best of that bunch is probably still Smith Rowe. Please don't buy a Adama Traore, kids. Please just don't. I see people asking that, don't know.
Smith Rowe's there and he's fine for a few more. I wouldn't be looking there now. I'd be looking elsewhere. I'd be looking elsewhere to try and find potential assets.
Agreed. If I went an offensive one, Jimenez, by the way, I thought played really well at the weekend. So no concern from that perspective of him not playing again. One that might be interesting for me, there's a short-term surge. If, say, Gabriel's out for 2 weeks, it's Joachim Andersen for a little bit. I don't like the fact that it's Brentford next because be going against Mbeumo, but actually just a little bit of cover for a few weeks, that might be the best. And obviously he's not played at the weekend because of suspension. He'll come back in. That's a certainty. He's 4.3. Particularly if it drops to 4.2, it becomes really, really interesting. So Joachim Andersen's kind of the Fulham player actually on radar for me. Similarly, I guess Mikalenko could do a similar job for me at the moment, but I'm not playing the big bucks. And for those who are really excited by Michael Keane going up front late in the game, great. Yeah, might be coming out of the team now, kids. I think that's probably it now. So I expect Jared Brantwaite, who obviously came on as a substitute, will come back in for the trip to Southampton.
There are plenty that would rather see Michael Keane up top than down at Calvert-Lewin, but I think Beto will probably get the nod ahead of Calvert-Lewin if he does get dropped, right?
The only caveat, I don't expect this, but I wouldn't be shocked if Everton played a back 5 at Southampton. I don't think that's an impossibility, particularly if McNeil is out, that they might even push and die up front with Calvert-Lewin and pick a flatter midfield 3. They might. That would allow Keane to keep on playing. Dwight McNeil, obviously important injury news for people because those who own won't want to sell him because of the upcoming fixtures. So that's important. The fact he's gone off is obviously a real concern. What do you say to Dominic Calvert-Lewin owners, Suj?
Yeah, move on.
Southampton next, man. So
Move,
rough.
move it on. Not for any reason other than you'll feel happier as a human being.
I think
They just
I think if
he
McNeil is
drives
ruled
people
out,
mad. We talk about mental health and the
yeah,
effect that FPL has. Get him out your team because you'll feel happier.
I think if McNeil is ruled out, that's a really good excuse. Where you'll forget, oh, he scored at South. Yeah, but McNeil was out. That's his best provider. Okay, I'll look away from that now as well. He's pretty unlucky with the offside goal. It's so close, isn't it? So the narrative could have very easily been very different. Also, Beto's come on and scored. That's another option, I guess. But if they want to go to a back five, just play the two of them up front together. Don't think he'd do that to start the game, though. I don't
No.
think. I think if McNeil's ruled out, I think he'll be interested in putting and Dye in a more central role to give him a little bit of creativity and stuff. I think. Otherwise, who do you see playing that role, or do they just go 4-4-2, mate, and actually go with the two big lads up front?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Dyche decides that he does want to do. But I'm not looking at any Everton, mate. To be honest, no interest at all.
Mikalenko is
go on.
not impossible for me.
Yeah, only because he's cheap,
It's
right?
only
And he's
cover,
a decent
yeah.
enabler, yeah. Sunday games, James, 4 of them still to cover off. Let's see how quickly we can get through these, considering your team and my team are involved.
Well, I've watched no football yesterday, and that includes the game I was at.
Chelsea 2, Newcastle 1. Cole Palmer 2. Cole Palmer's dominant at the moment.
Cole Palmer's assist to the assist for Pedro Neto is absurd, mate.
I think, I obviously sold Saka for Cole Palmer. And then even later when Saka comes on and he scores early, and you're like, yeah, was it even worth it? The answer is yes. Because I just think I'm happier. Saka can go and do well. He's a lovely, likable young man. I don't mind him doing well at all. I'd still rather look at Cole Palmer in my team because of that ceiling that he has.
Did you not see the way Bukayo Saka turned Andy Robertson inside out yesterday?
I did, but I'd rather have Palmer. I'm not saying Saka's bad. I'm not saying I don't like Saka. I'm not saying Saka won't go to score points. Give me the choice of the two in my team. I'd rather have Cole Palmer.
I've got a solution for that. You could have both.
Yeah, there is that as well.
And I think a lot will want to obviously put Mo in as part of that as well at the moment. Understand. It's interesting when he was talking, I was thinking about Palmer's positioning yesterday and then trying to relate it to me thinking about captaining him at Manchester United at the weekend. So Cole Palmer played a different position yesterday. He played in the left half space more. I think you only have to watch the highlights to see that, because Malo Gusto played right back. Reece James, we will be there. 90 minutes, Suj. Played left back. And
no Reece James.
What do you mean, no Reece James?
No, I'm not buying Reece James.
No,
no, Reece James.
Suj, come on, I'm taking the piss here, mate.
Okay, good.
Some will. Defensive left back Reece James steam into him in FPL. What's way more interesting is Malo Gusto's position. So against Liverpool, he moved into the left half space 10 position. Yesterday, he moved into the right half space position. That meant that Cole Palmer played in a more left-sided role than nominal, right? We like him in this right half space. Actually, we don't like him as much, I don't think, in that left half space. But of course, Newcastle weren't expecting it. I think I said weeks ago about Kulusevski and the 9 chances he created against Manchester United in the right half space channel. I think Palmer goes back there against Manchester United and Chelsea will probably flip it back. And you might get this where Palmer's positioning is going to be dependent on where Chelsea deem he can hurt an opponent most. So what does that do, taking him to the left half space? It takes him away from Newcastle's best runner, Joel Linton, and put him on the shoulder of Tonali instead. I think at United he goes back the other way.
Well, sit some Casemiro.
Just thinking that process in my head, I'm thinking I'm not buying Salah. I'm captaining Palmer. I'm processing that in my head, and that's not to say I won't buy Mo Salah. But yeah, Cole Palmer might have another good weekend this week against Manchester United. Jackson, he's on it. We've got to get over this. The underlying is brilliant. The returns are brilliant. He's the one in that price bracket between sort of Isak, Havertz, and down to, I guess, Solanke, that range where there's five of them, or even Watkins at the top. Jackson is the one that you'd buy at this minute, isn't it?
I want Jackson. So this is the dilemma that I have thought through in my head yesterday a few times. I can't do Solanke to Jackson because I want Solanke for Ipswich at home. I don't want to do Watkins to Jackson because I want to keep Watkins for the next couple. And I can do Haaland to Jackson, but that's a game week 12 move for me. Jackson is not far off my thinking at all. I just don't know who I would sell, and it wouldn't be a standalone move for me. It'd be if I go Watkins to Jackson or Haaland to Jackson, I'm putting so much money in the bank. I'm making 2 or 3 other moves at the same time. So yeah, I'm with it on Nicholas Jackson. I think he's definitely one that we'll all be looking at getting in, particularly after game week 12. You can avoid the next couple if you really wanted to. It's Liverpool, isn't it? After United.
I've just played Liverpool. No, Arsenal.
Oh, sorry, Arsenal. I knew it was a tougher game. So if that's why I'm kind of like, okay, I can stomach it for the next 2. I think Jackson will do all right in the next couple, particularly United. But I can stomach it. But after game week 12, I think I want it.
Best thing I can say for Nicholas Jackson at the moment is I was really determined to get him in this week and get ahead, because I can see that Haaland to Jackson in 12 as part of or I can get to another player, although the desperation feels quicker for people to get to Palmer, Salah at the moment. But those who haven't got Cole Palmer are buying Palmer in 12. Mm-hmm. Probably. Fair?
Yeah.
Guess?
Yep.
Does Jackson go with it? And I came to the conclusion that it probably would. And I didn't want to cut myself off of Jackson. And that's why
good price.
I went there
early. Is he 7.9 now? Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to see investment in the next couple. And I wouldn't be surprised if he returns at Manchester United at the weekend. And to be honest, Arsenal at home, obviously, if Gabriel's out, he's obviously becomes a less scary fixture as well in game week 11. So I'm really happy he's there. I've got eyes on a third Chelsea asset potentially as well as a defensive one, not now. But at that point, I can see me hitting game week 12 and going, yep, do you know what? Porro into a Chelsea player, it's way less thrilling. But then Chelsea's run really starts there. I can see me doing it. And to be honest with you, I probably would go bland and go with something like Colwell or Fofana, one or the other. But if Malo Gusto continues to play, that is way more interesting than Reece James on the positioning that he is picking up at the moment.
Newcastle. Obviously, Gordon ruled out. I don't think it doesn't sound like it's a long-term issue, but he was ruled out.
Yeah, he actually travelled to Stamford Bridge. So it really is, it must be minor because he actually travelled down to the game. One of the other reasons, Suj, that I really wanted to get Nicholas Jackson now is because I know that in game week 12, people are not going to buy Alexander Isak.
Mm-hmm.
And I might. But I definitely need to see more from him. That said, yesterday, he very nearly scored twice at Stamford Bridge because he overdoes a moment where he walks around the goalkeeper, right? So suddenly, I don't know if he scored twice at Stamford Bridge, is he back on radar? Whereas the fact he's just scored one, no one's looking at it. And I get it. Is, Arsenal this week, you're not buying them. Forest away doesn't feel thrilling. Newcastle have a really nice run, sort of game with 12 to 17. And while people are buying Jackson, I might be buying Isak. That's my take. I can see me. That's what I don't want to cut myself off of Solanke to Isak in 12. I want to keep that option open for me. Otherwise, no real interest in them at the moment. And defensively, I think they're a bit of an alarm. That said, this was probably one of their best performances of the season, actually. They could say they were unlucky yesterday. And they were a bit unlucky against Brighton the week before as well.
Eddie Howe did say after the game that they were getting better. They started slow, but they found their rhythm and got better as the game went on.
Do you remember what you said when they kept having the really good results and weren't playing well early in the season? We compared it to when Pochettino got Conte's second season at Tottenham. I was going to say his full season. Of course, he didn't do a full season. The start of it, when he started the season with Tottenham, 22-23, and we said with Tottenham, because Tottenham, I think, had 22 points in the first 10 or something. I mean, one or two things happen here. Either the performances get better or the results get bad. And ironically, for Newcastle, both have happened because I think the performances have got a little bit better, but the results have now gone against them.
Cool. Crystal Palace 1, Tottenham 0. James, you said you didn't see any football.
No, that's really harsh on Crystal Palace, actually.
I heard they were in your faces, let's say, combative,
Yeah.
let's say, but did create chances and ultimately did deserve to win. And you didn't deserve to win, I would say as well.
When I look at the statistics, the game looks really even. XG kind of like 0.78 v 0.74. Big chances 2-1 in Tottenham's favour. Shots 14 versus 11. Like, it feels very even. Don't know what Tottenham's two big chances are. Don't feel like we had a shot in the game, actually. Crystal Palace were deserving winners by an absolute mile. They were the better side by distance. Do not be fooled by the statistics. They defended exceptionally. And I think what happened here was what Tottenham prepared for was not what they got. And I know that because it's not what I was expecting either. So I watched Palace at Forest. Me and Clayton discussed on Wednesday, and I described those two teams as arguably the two most passive teams in the league, like just not interested in engaging what the other team is doing with the ball. That was a wild, aggressive press from Crystal Palace, and they did it brilliantly. And if there's anybody was questioning, Oliver Glasner questioned the motivation of the players after the defeat at Forest. That was not a team that weren't putting the effort in for their manager. They were absolutely brilliant.
In similar to when we spoke about Spurs West Ham and how Game Week 7 didn't help Game Week 8. Do you think Game Week 8 didn't help Game Week 9 in the sense of you're obviously riding high off a 4-1 win, whereas they need to win now. Like, they're winless. Getting into the 9th game of the season being winless is not acceptable. So they just decide, right, we're going to turn the heat up and press in the way that we are, but fuck it, we're going to win this game by hook or crook, however we possibly can.
I told you I was scared about this game.
Yeah, I know, and I know other people that I spoke to were saying, nah, Spurs always find it difficult at Palace and what have you. And I was like, nah, I've seen enough attacking threat from Spurs that they will create enough chances to win this game. But yeah, no.
They changed the system at Forest. Didn't work. Changed back to something a little bit more familiar. One of the conclusions I definitely had off the back of the Forest game was the bet with Mateta back in the team. Mm-hmm. And he's back in the team and he scored, and that has got to stick.
Assisted by Eze.
I mean, yeah. Miss
Assist
it, that, didn't he?
Eze, goal Mateta is something we're going to see a bit more.
Why didn't I get the Eze that played at Nottingham Forest? Why did I get that Eze yesterday? I mean, he was ball on strings. You know what? When he's at he's a brilliant.
He's one of them players. Yeah.
And the assist is obviously
control the game.
He's gorgeous. From a fantasy perspective, they're kind of on radar for me a little bit defensively, ironically. So all this talk about buying Cunha, I might buy a Palace defender and just play that against Cunha this week. I probably wouldn't buy Cunha as well. But I think that now might be getting fixed. That back three is good. It's got weaknesses, but that back three I think is strong physically. I think it now when it's under duress, it will be okay. Let's also remember that the goal that they did concede at Forest, Henderson obviously should have done better with. And Dean Henderson, inevitably, of course, played really well against my team yesterday. But I look at, say, Gay at 4.4, and I think if I'm just going to change this up a little bit, like that's a really safe one to go longer term as a rotatable option, isn't it? There's some good immediate ones. Like I could play in Wolves away, Fulham at home, couldn't I? Like, again, that feels like a decent cover if, say, Gabriel's going to be out for a couple of weeks. And I just want to leave it there rather than changing it about. Because that's inevitable. I keep thinking with Gabriel as well. I keep thinking, if it is only going to be a couple of weeks, I want to go back.
But
can I just cover it?
If they play the back three, which they have, and continue to do it that way, the extra 0.4 for Munoz, not interesting from what you saw yesterday?
Price. No. He played really well, Daniel Munoz, and so did Tyrick Mitchell. They all played well. Everybody who played for Palace yesterday played well. Everybody. They even suffered the injury to, obviously, Jefferson Lerma went off quite early. He's a player. He's a kick you up in the air player. I'd glad to see him go off. And I thought that would be a turning point for us. Will Hughes came on, played really well alongside Adam Wharton, who clearly is not fit and should not be playing football, gave it his all yesterday for Crystal Palace. He needs to have surgery on a groin problem that he's got, and he should go and have it. Lerma getting injured isn't going to help. Going to keep delaying it. He's a young boy. Palace need to get that sorted out. They were better. Sarr was a direct threat, obviously going against Udogi. Eze drifted more into his left side role. They could obviously knock it up to Mateta. He's an absolute pain in the arse with a big arse as well. Yeah, Palace, I don't think anyone's ever been concerned about them. It was more like, is something not right here with the manager and the team? Clearly, the biggest analysis off that yesterday would be there is no problem. They'll be absolutely fine. Gabriel, I think, would be the standout of the three defensive. Mind you, Chalobah used to pop up with the odd goal for Chelsea and that, didn't he?
Yeah.
They're all units though. All three at Lacroix as well. They're all units from set plays. I think that back three will stick for them in that positioning because they changed it at Forest. Gay left, Chalobah right, and then Lacroix central. Yeah, look, Palace were really good. Take nothing away from them. Fully deserved victory. My team had a shocker.
A lot of people frustrated, because people bought Brennan Johnson and maybe might have got one goal out of him. And then they've had two blanks. Solanke, like you mentioned, 3 games now with not a sniff of it, potentially. Pedro Porro, like you've kept 2 clean sheets this season, right? I think the home game against Everton and Man United away, who have scored less goals than games now so far.
That game, as we now know, doesn't count.
Why? Because they were that bad?
Well, no, that's what Erik ten Hag said last week. He said that game doesn't count now because Bruno Fernandes' red card should have been overturned. It doesn't count.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear him say that. Yeah, I mean, whatever Ten Hag says,
we need to have 3 points removed from our total.
I think I'm going to invite Ten Hag to join the FPL cartel with opinions like that. I think he could fit right in. Yeah, people are frustrated with Spurs, but 2 home games, the second of which is Ipswich. I think we're trapped, aren't we?
We're not trapped. I mean, having Tottenham assets for 2 home games, good, but the first one is tough. I mean,
you can't sell them.
Aston Villa is a really big game for us on Sunday. It's a really big game because I think that's primarily at the moment who we're in competition with for 5th in the league. I think that Newcastle, Manchester United, maybe even Brighton. Newcastle and Manchester United can definitely get themselves in contention. I'm saying maybe Brighton. But at the moment, Villa feels like the one that we need to chase. 5th is highly, I keep saying this, highly, highly, highly likely to be enough to qualify for the Champions League this year. So that's who we're chasing. Chelsea are better than us. The top 3 are clearly better than us. So that's a really big game for us against Villa. Do we get the Villa who normally play a high line and can be quite aggressive? Or do we get the Villa that was really passive when we went there and won 4-0 in March and just wanted to sit off the ball the whole game? And then once we scored, didn't have an answer to it. And we took the game away from them really comfortably. What Villa do we get on Sunday? Because Palace have shown there's 2 ways to play against my team and you can do both. But Palace, in terms of an aggressive press, was spot on. The amount of turnovers they won in our half, Suj, was unbelievable. And that's credit to them, but it's also terrible distribution from our perspective. I don't know what Villa we get on Sunday. We might get either, we might at stages get both, where they go high and then drop off. And Palace did that really well yesterday. In terms of the assets, I don't want to sell Solanke. For me personally as well, particularly, like I said, I definitely could be captaining him in game week 11. And I wouldn't be put off with that. If he blanks this weekend, he blanks. I wouldn't be put off to think, oh, well, he's had a shit run. His XG's. I'd just be attacking Ipswich. And Ipswich has got real big problems defensively at the moment. So I don't want to sell. There'll be others who will have better captaincy options, maybe in game week 11, that will find a Solanke to Acuna move, for example, this week. Really straightforward. And I understand that if people want to make that move, yeah. Because that's 3 games now. I thought he was probably just about the only Tottenham player to come out of that game with any credit yesterday, actually, because at least his hold-up play he was at it. There were a lot of Tottenham players that weren't at it yesterday. He was clearly trying. And what strikes her, because obviously I was quite low on the side, so he is one hell of a unit, Solanke. Proper, yeah. You wouldn't want to have a row with him. He really is a big lad. He's staying for me. I don't think the majority of Tottenham assets, I don't think you're going to move on at this stage with the 2 home games. The one that would be a real concern if you own is James Maddison.
Yep.
Never high on him as an option anyway. Those who gone Kulusevski will be really alarmed by the fact that he and Maddison were both taken off at the hour point. The reason they were taken off was because what Tottenham prepared for wasn't what Crystal Palace gave them. And Tottenham just weren't working it through the lines to them at all. So what they did is they put Salah in alongside Bissouma.
Similar to the second half against us.
And then went the two up front. No, not similar to against you.
Because he left Kulu on in that game, obviously.
Yeah, but Salah did a running job against you. He sat next to Bissouma. We played 4-2-4 in the last half. He left Werner and Johnson really high. And he played Richarlison up with Solanke, and he asked the two forwards to both drop short to try and create a vacuum in that space. That didn't work either, by the way. But the reason Kulusevski was taken off was really tactical. So I wouldn't be too concerned if you owned him. Johnson's fine to keep hold of. Solanke, I understand if people want to move that at this stage. But for me, I think he's got to stay as it stands currently. Porro now, I think real chopping block for me, game week 12. But it's the same thing. I'm not moving that now at this stage. He was back on all the corners yesterday, certainly from the right-hand side. Yeah. So he's potential haul for him in the next couple, but Man City's going to give me the excuse, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a perfect time to move him on. And you know what will happen? He'll return.
He's not justifying the value versus players a million cheaper. It's as simple as that at the moment. But I'm not moving him at this minute in time. I wouldn't be investing in Tottenham though at this minute. Not at all.
West Ham 2, Manchester United 1. And it's just what we all thought would happen, isn't it? Really, West Ham would go there, would dominate Man United at home and come away with a stunning victory.
Completely dominated. You wanna talk about the penalty?
What penalty?
Yeah, good question.
No, it was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. I don't know what you're talking about. What's this? What are we chatting about?
Here's where people get annoyed, right?
With what? Nothing wrong, man. What's everyone worried about? Why are you always upset?
People do comparisons, right? And I saw this again from Gooners yesterday, right? Like Van der Ven fouling Ismail Assar as last man. Yeah, but Sar's running away from goal, so it's a yellow card. You stop comparing incidents that aren't comparable. But here's one that you can compare. On day one, you played Aston Villa. And Matty Cash got a little toe on the ball. Do you remember? Foul on Thomas Souček. And it stood for referee's call.
Yep.
We've heard a lot about that. Referee's call. Right. Where was that intervention to be like, oh, that's a clear and obvious error? It's not, is it? I don't mind if it was given as a penalty and that's what the referee saw, but you don't get involved in that. What are you doing?
I didn't tweet after the game, but I will say what I would have tweeted now. Like, I watched that replay on TV as many times as the ref watched that replay. I don't know why a penalty was given. I have no idea what it was. Was it? I don't know. Was there a handball involved? Was there a fouling?
Two shins come together, don't they?
Yeah, but what? When Danny Ings is already on his way to the ground. Danny Ings was already on his way to the ground.
The ball is in a really awkward kind of almost like stomach area, and the two players go together towards to meet it, and they kind of butt shins in a way.
Your description alone is enough to say, look, it was not a penalty. And no one thinks it is. And I don't know any West Ham fans who think it was either.
I'm really interested because actually, in fairness, when they do their mic'd up shit, that, you know, Howard Webb generally comes out and says, yeah, we got this one wrong. This is Michael Oliver was a VAR. I'm not certain it will happen.
There was talk that
they might just ignore it.
Michael Oliver is obviously, we know he's on Manchester City's payroll. So there's no surprise that this has happened against Manchester United. And people can say what they like about Michael Oliver.
Do you think Manchester City are worried about Manchester United?
No, but they clearly have Michael Oliver in their pockets.
Can we also just say there's been an image going around with I don't know if it was from this game. Was it Michael Oliver? It might have been
Michael Oliver was
Salisbury in a different game. Yeah. There's an image going around where people think that someone in the VAR room had the FPL app open on their phone. It's not the FPL website. It's the Premier League Match Centre.
No, but there was clearly a conversation was had as to whether or not the ref, David Coote felt that he could overrule Michael Oliver, who is a more senior referee.
No chance. No, I agree with that. Yeah,
Coots
is given a penalty.
Because you think Coots given it, not Oliver?
No, I'm saying once Michael Oliver tells him it's a penalty and he goes to look, Coots is giving it.
That's the thing. He didn't feel like he could stand by his own decision, and he's the ref on the pitch.
Maybe Coots looked at it and went, "Yeah, it's a penalty, mate." Most people do not think that's a penalty, and it does give Mr. Ten Hag another excuse. We should also acknowledge, though, that Manchester United should have been out of sight in the first half. So just that
when Garnacho hit the bar in the second minute, all I could think was what a wanker you are for having just bought him, because he should have scored, and he should have scored a couple of times.
I benched him, Suj. I knew he'd blank.
I knew he was on your bench, but the fact that you owned him was enough for me. Well, from what I saw from him and the threat that he is, like, he's a really good player. Dalot should have scored. It didn't help when Alvarez, which doesn't even show on the XG, hit our own bar with the header that could have gone in as well. Højlund had a number of chances. Bruno was pulling the strings. Rashford looked threatening when he was running in behind. They should have been 3 or 4-0 at halftime. I thought at halftime, James, I didn't think Lopetegui would make it beyond November, end of November. That's what I felt at halftime. Lopetegui is not going to make it beyond the end of November.
It might still be the case.
He made 3 changes at halftime. Give him all the credit. He made 3 changes at halftime. And then from then on, I don't think United could say that they, like, I think a draw was a fair result, end up, because we were the better team in the second half. We created more chances. We pinned them in.
Did Alvarez go to centre-back in the second half? Did you go to a back three?
No. But there was weird periods where Souček was like the third centre-back. You had like Todibo was right, and then McKilman, and then Souček left, and then Souček would drop forward. One of them was dropping in, and the fullbacks were bombing on much higher.
Because I obviously was at Palace. I've only watched what was on the highlights last night, and on Match of the Day, they showed it, and it looked like Alvarez went in centre back.
There was periods where Souček was in that position. I was like, I don't really want that. But midfielder dropping in and fullbacks bombing on a lot more, yes. It did happen. Emerson particularly, but we know Wan-Bissaka likes to maraud. Like, look, United, United should have been 3-0 up at halftime. They weren't. And then from halftime onwards, they can't then go and say we deserve to still win the game, because we created more chances in the second half, I feel. Played better, pinned them in for large periods. They're always a threat on the break with the pace of Garnacho. And then Ahmed came on after about the hour mark for Rashford. Højlund is a unit, but they can't say that they deserved to win off the whole game, but neither can we. And that penalty at the end was robbery. That's all I would say on it. And there's a lot to be said for Paqueta coming off and the difference that made to the team with Paqueta coming off, which I don't want to really say, but Paqueta came off. Todibo had a good second half, and he obviously came on for Mavropanos, who picked up a bit of a knock, so you could say it was an injury-related halftime substitution. Todibo played better. That's why I'm less inclined to say, target West Ham for that Nottingham Forest fixture and captain Wood. I wouldn't say that was sensible. We weren't as bad in the second half defensively as we were in the first. The first, disorganised. No clue what was going on.
Okay. In terms of FPL assets, West Ham is still just a game week 14 conversation,
man.
is it?
It's still weight. Yeah, there's nothing there of interest.
But
nothing of interest. Yeah, exactly that. Look, Ariolo dropped. He did all right. Fabian, it didn't do enough to, let's say, warrant losing his place. Yeah.
So who do I play this weekend? Flappy or Rayo?
Oh, you played Rayo.
Arsenal at Newcastle, yeah, but possibly without Gabriel, possibly without Timber.
If there's no Gabriel, that does change it. If there's no Gabriel, that does change it. Saliba's was a 3-game ban, wasn't it? Or 1-game ban?
One. No, so Saliba
comes back. Then
but Saliba's right-sided centre-back. So they've just been without the right-sided centre-back, played Ben White there. Now they're going to be without the left-sided centre-back. So I don't know if that means then Kivior goes in there. Probably does. Kivior and Saliba, I'd imagine Ben White back to right-back, probably.
I heard on the Above Average stream yesterday, and I don't know who it was, so forgive me. But there was somebody in one of their groups or whatever who did bench wankery and played Fabianski over Raya this
Oh, well done.
weekend just for shits and giggles and outscored Raya by 2 points. So why don't you just do that, James? Do it as play Fabianski as a bit of bench wankery, and you never know, you might get Raya.
I've busted it with Flappy in the team at the moment, based on the potential news, and I also think like if you can nullify Wood, it's the sort of game that Forest could lose 1-0. It goes the other way, right? Forest now have got to deal with changing expectancy, right? Now it's
Yep.
like, oh, we expect Nottingham Forest to win games like West Ham at home. And we always speak about this with teams every year. That creates a potentially different narrative. Um, Flappy, though, is going to really appeal to people, mate. I guess people
Yeah.
want to know what is his long term now. Like, we can't answer it now.
No, not yet. I think long term, Ariola will get back in the team, but he's just taking him out the firing line for a little while. Long term,
Or
I mean, Flappy's back in the team.
because I obviously highlighted some stats to you on Patreon last week that Ariola was basically the biggest
worst.
underperforming goalkeeper in the league against expected shots on target, like badly. So I wasn't that shocked actually that Flappy played. I felt like this. I say I wasn't shocked. Okay, I was a little surprised to see him not in the team, but it wasn't like a complete unexpectancy based on what the data was telling us on Ariola.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, look, Fabi's. I think he'll stay in the team. I think he'll stay in the team until and when we have a howler, and then Ariola will come back in.
Have I bought the right Manchester United attacker?
Yes, I mean Bruno's still in and about it all the time. You know,
It's Bruno's
he,
pass for Dallo, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
it's just not meant
Bruno's
to be.
in and about it all the time. I think
Garnacho is 2 million cheaper though.
this is it, right? It's the value difference. So, yeah, I think so. He really looks good when he can open up his legs, and his finishing sometimes is a bit ropey. The question is, have you done the right thing buying a Manchester United attacker? Because 8 goals in 9 games and that level of finishing in the first half is atrocious.
You know why? You know why I bought him.
Are they going to turn it around and start racking up numbers though, 2s and 3s in games?
I've bought him because there's a swing of fixtures coming up, and I didn't hesitate once to see him go back on the left, which is obviously where he played again yesterday. And that's where he wants to play, I think, and be his most dangerous. Leicester at home, Ipswich away, Everton at home, 11-13. I mean, if I really get beyond this weekend and haven't bought Salah, and Son isn't fit, and not that I own him, but I could consider buying him, and I'm really, really not keen on Solanke, I may well just be captaining Garnacho against Leicester in 11.
Don't blame you. And he did look lively. That's all I would say.
I think if Rasmus Højlund has a good weekend, he'll be a conversation next week as well. I think.
Yeah, I think the problem is your Woods and Vissers and stuff, and even Welbeck, who are $1 million or more cheaper than Højlund, kind of rules him out.
Diogo Dalot underlying very much up now.
Yeah, he's a threat, but I don't want any Man United defence right now.
If it was 1 week later, I'd be considering that with the fixtures I've got 11-13, but not. I've got Palmer and Jackson. It just makes no sense for me to go there now.
Yep. Last but not least, James, we've got to cover this game off before we end up. This 10 more minutes and we'll be 2 hours in, buddy. Arsenal 2, Liverpool 2. I thought Liverpool would go and win, actually, with Arsenal's potential missing players. But the fact that Timber was available, Saka then back in the team as well, they weren't as depleted as they potentially could have been, Arsenal. And I think both sides will walk away and say, do you know what, take the 2-2 and live to fight another day.
I only saw the last 25 minutes or so, and was pretty disappointed with Liverpool on what I saw. Because I think with the backline Arsenal had on the pitch, I think they were there for the taking. That's not to say I get it. It's difficult. You're also going draw here at Arsenal is absolutely reasonable. I get it. I just think circumstance, it was there for Liverpool to really push on. Because what Arsenal had on the pitch at the end in terms of their backline was so weak. And I didn't really think they challenged them enough. So I think that will be disappointing from Liverpool, but they'll also be pleased with the result. I think Arsenal will be disappointed because they got themselves in a really good position twice, but also under the circumstances I've just said, it's also an acceptable result. So almost everyone walks away from it a little disappointed and also a little pleased.
Mm.
And that's okay at this stage of the season. I think the result under the circumstance is absolutely fine for each. Saka being fit should be no surprise. He's a really good option moving forward. I might have to cut him for a couple as part of getting Mo, but I also still want him longer term, so I may well just stick with that. If Sonny was available, I would also consider flipping Saka to Son for a couple of games because of the game week 11 captaincy problem as discussed previously. I also think if I end up with Salah, I could come back for Saka around about game week 13 when Liverpool's play City, or maybe even later on around about game week 16. But he is brilliantly consistent. And I tell you what, that goal didn't look like he had tight hamstrings. I know that. I mean, he absolutely
Robertson
destroyed
did.
Robertson, didn't he?
Yeah, it's one that
and then when he got there, he didn't piss about with it. I'd lever it. Yeah. It's a great goal.
I feel for Robertson because you get made to look like a mug. But it was more Saka's skill than it was Robertson.
I wouldn't be surprised if Tsimikas takes over from him soon. You know, I think that needs watching.
He's not playing well.
He's lost the yard. I think Andy Robertson at his best was just so all action. So if he can't be, his all action nature always hid a little bit of deficiency of some of the technical qualities he might have. He's been incredible for Liverpool. But if he's slowing down, that's going to be more obvious with a player like that because he is so all action. I think kind of similar to, say, like Seamus Coleman at Everton as well. He's like up and down, up and down. You can tell the difference as he's got older. And it's not to say, Liverpool need to bin Robertson. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if Tsimikas comes in the team on a more regular basis.
6 million Tsimikas. Not a bad price for a Liverpool regular starting defender. Right now, I don't know if I'd want to add that because obviously Alisson's still out. But
yeah, Konate though is a little bit of a consideration for me. There's so many players under consideration for me this week. He might be one that tempts people in the next couple. Okay, I don't know if I want to look at that for, say, City at home, Newcastle away, 13 and 14 though. So you actually drinking piss?
This really looks like it, doesn't it?
What are you drinking?
It's got is vitamin C and magnesium in water.
Very nice. Yeah, cool, mate. Each to their own. What you do in your time is up to you, mate.
Head over to youtube.com/Planet FPL and have a look. And while you're there, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Why don't you?
Yeah, you weirdo. If Gabriel is just out for 2 weeks, I might leave it because I think I'd want him back.
And what price did you buy him at? 6-1?
6, yeah. I mean, he's actually been, he's done nothing.
He's 6'3" now. Yeah.
He's done nothing for me. Also, he's obviously, if he is ruled out, he's going to go red flag. So all these injuries, like a little bit like what happened with Isak earlier in the season when he had like the facial injury and stuff like that. And then he was a doubt. Yeah, just the volume of transfers out, he's not going to drop in price in the way that I think people may think. Obviously, he's going to drop. But he might not to the extent he's going to go like 5'8", 5'9". I don't think. I think it will probably hold, and I'll want him back. So I might just leave it under that circumstance. Otherwise, Arsenal not really on radar over these next couple. Liverpool more of interest. Konate, Salah definitely. Curtis Jones is not a fantasy option, I think, at this moment, but he's going to continue to play more, and I actually think arguably should be monitored. If anyone's still got Dominic Szoboszlai, like my wife has, and told her to sell him for Brennan Johnson this week, and she went, why'd you do that? I'm like, yeah, no, that's a move on as well. I also told her to buy Bryan Mbeumo as well, though, Suj.
Did she listen?
Yes, I've not no divorces yet, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how people want to view that. Trent is obviously not going for me at this moment, but there is a conversation that's going to be had really soon about, again, a little bit like with Porro. Is he worthwhile? I just think, again, though, the template flips. If you just cast your mind back 4 or 5 weeks ago and think, would you have thought that people might end up with a front line of like Wood, Cunha, Visser? Which if someone went with that on wildcard right now, I couldn't really say to them definitively, don't do that.
I would. You want someone in that 8 million bracket, 8 to 9 million bracket.
I agree personally, but if someone went, I wouldn't go, any of them are bad picks. Let's put it that way as a different example. It will flip back. Trent only needs one good week and he becomes like a player people like lust for and stuff like that. So I'll take a view over the next three, but are still viewing very much as kind of a long-term hold, actually.
The thing I would add with Trent as well is if and when people do start jumping off the Haaland train, they're going to have a lot of money kicking around. And that's where you're like, well, I've got 7 million for a defender. I looked at a couple of moves where I moved Haaland to Visser, Smith Rowe to Salah, Flecken to Raya, and then Porro out. And it left me enough money to get Trent. It left me any defender I wanted. And you're kind of like, well, I've got 7 million. Shall I just spend it on Trent? So I do think a lot of people that come off Erling Haaland will end up with so much money that Trent comes around just because you're like, shit, I've got 7 million. I may as well get him.
I'm interested to see what Clates wants to do on wildcard on Wednesday, because I would imagine template midfield at the moment is going to look something like Salah, Palmer, Saka, Mbeumo, Rodgers.
Salah, Palmer, Saka, Mbeumo, Rodgers.
And if you do that, you are cheapening out. Yeah. If you do that, you're cheapening out the attack and the defence, aren't you?
Yeah.
Once you do that, something like Trent becomes difficult to justify. Arsenal got injuries, you're probably taking it all out. You are probably cheapening that area. Now, of course, at any point, you could decide to say, well, I want to take Saka out as an example, and you can move your Visser to your Jackson or go back up to Gabriel or something like that. But with the fixtures that those three premiums have got moving forward from sort of game week 12, they're all going to be really difficult to take out at any point. And I just be cautious of the longer term structure, and that template will flip again where there'll be a bit and it's like, Trent and Gabriel are doing great. And then there'll be a bit where Watkins and Jackson and Isak are doing great. Just be cautious of just thinning out too much defensively and attacking wise. With the next few fixtures, I don't want to sell Trent. That's not to say that those who've sold have done wrong. No, not at all. It's arguably not justifying the money at the moment, but there's a couple of good fixtures coming up. Again, Liverpool probably overlooked to invest bar Canate for money reasons or Mo for the obvious reasons.
Yeah, exactly that. Good. James, do you want to? We've been going on, so I'm pulling up your tweet asking for questions. I'm going to find one question that we're going to answer to wrap the show. In the meantime, what's happening the rest of the week?
Clash of correspondence tomorrow is Ipswich versus Leicester with Paul Gort Allen and Aaron Lagor. Clayton will be joining me Wednesday for Clayton and James show. That will include some discussion on Clayton is on wildcard. He's definitely already active. I know that.
Yeah, he did message me as well and said I've hit the button.
Yeah, and he also, it was about midnight or something. So that obviously wasn't a drunk decision, was it? Right, on Thursday, People's Poll podcast, topics to be determined later in the week. Ask James Friday returns to the later time of 2 p.m. UK time. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Podcast this week include Q&A. We've got a quiz for Clates tomorrow, Tottenham Wednesday, Money in Football Thursday, and our Game Week 10 preview podcast, the differential show, on Friday.
Good.
Did you find a good question? Because I've got one thing that I know I didn't cover that I should cover.
No, James. Honestly, it's a lot of like DCL, Solanke. If I muted DCL, Solanke, Cunha, I think the 40-60% of the questions would absolutely disappear. Nothing that's going to help any of the listeners.
There's no good question. There's no good question. Nothing that we haven't covered.
I mean, do you want me to, like someone's said, Suj, why does Lopetegui not start Somerville? That's not a good question that we can cover off now. We had to talk about it on Tottenham later in the week. I've got a question here, James.
Go on in.
If you really must have one,
go on.
It's coming in from Karma with Palmer. Are you the GOAT or should we look for another?
The GOAT is going to be Mikey Moore.
Okay.
But no, please don't buy Mikey Moore in FPL. He is 4.5. I have seen a few people already asking about that. Wilson Odobert obviously unavailable. Heung-min Son unavailable. Like if those two players are available, they're both ahead of him in the pecking order. He's a 17-year-old boy. He is a super talent. He's probably not quite ready for an opponent like Palace who are going to be as physical. And it was a fair physical, by the way, just to clarity, a physical that they provided yesterday.
Cool. What's the one thing you wanted to cover off, my friend?
That was it, Mikey Moore.
Oh, okay. There we go.
I just got it into the question. No, I'm not the FPL GOAT. I was extremely lucky this weekend, and I know it.
Yeah, but you need a bit of luck to win the game. It is a guessing game at the end of the day. Listeners.
I guessed well with Mbeumo.
There we go. Stay safe. Thank you for all your support. I just asked one thing. If you're still here and you're still listening on YouTube or wherever you are, make sure you subscribe and like the show. Give us a review wherever you can, or jump in the comments with any thoughts on anything we've said as well. It all kind of helps spread the Planet FPL word. Other than that, though, stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Play it your way. Cue music, please. Man child.